Welcome back to our weekly edition of the Fight Plug podcast, where we will be recapping everything that went down on UFC on ABC 3, Ortega versus Rodriguez, and we will be doing a breakdown of UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Aspinals, which is happening all the way over in London, UFC Fight Night London officially. But first, before we get to all that, we're going to talk about the main event. Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega ends, unfortunately, freak accident. Brian Ortega's shoulder pops out of its socket while he's defending against a weird armbar that kind of looked like it was like reversed.
Right.
Pretty poor showing, I would say, but we didn't really get far enough to judge it. It's unfortunate. Yair Rodriguez said, "Hey, I'm down to give you a rematch, but let's do it for the championship,"
right on.
Which is basically saying I'm not going to give you a rematch. I think that the UFC would probably be interested in rebooking this one, and hopefully at a location that makes a little bit more sense, because I know they have a fight card coming up pretty soon in San Diego, I think. And I'm not really – I mean, I guess both of these guys just wanted to get in there. But I think it would have made a lot more sense if they put them on that card, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe Shane Burgos was the only New York area fighter on the main card. I'm not sure about the undercard, but nevertheless, Yair Rodriguez walks away with a W under the worst of circumstances. Brian Ortega is probably going to need surgery, and we're in limbo here. So who deserves the shot at the featherweight title as of right now? Is it Yair Rodriguez? Is it Josh Emmett? What's going on?
I think it has to be Yair Rodriguez. It just has to be. Like, it's kind of like I don't want to say fluky thing, but it feels like there's always this buildup for Yair, and then it doesn't quite live up to the level that we know that he's capable of. And it looked like he was doing. I mean, it's really impossible to judge the way how that went, how things were going. It looked like he was doing pretty well, and like he was taking it to Ortega in the grappling portion of it, where he ended up ultimately getting hurt. I think they said it was more defending up against the cage, when he got pushed up against the cage, that made it like more susceptible to that happening. You hear all these people trying to break down this like split second thing of how his labrum came out, and it's like, okay, it was what it was. It was an injury. So, but yeah, I guess it has to be Yair Rodriguez. But and what I read today too was that Volk is like down for a lightweight fight, and so if he has to there has to be an interim while he's out doing his thing, because he's injured and he wants a lightweight fight. So he's going to be out 8 weeks just rehabbing the injury, then getting up to camp level. Then I'm sure for someone like him, where if he is going to lightweight, he's going to want to take a longer camp to bulk. Like, look at what John Jones is saying. He's bulking to get to that level. Volk's going to have to make up for, because he doesn't have just long arms and legs that he's going to have to put that mass somewhere. So, yeah. So, and he can do it, but it's going to take longer than look at where Charles Oliveira at lightweight, where he's right now walking around at like a welterweight, middleweight type of weight, and he has to cut down to, so it would be so much harder for him. He's going to need time. So I guess Josh Emmett versus Yair, but like I guess that's the only thing you can really say. Because there's guys there at the bottom. Sorry to cut you off again, but there's guys there that they have. I mean, we'll go through it, like the prospects there at featherweight, but there's a few guys there, but no one feels like they're outside of Yair and Emmett and maybe Cater. You can really make any kind of case for.
All right, folks, so through the magic of editing, I'm chiming in right here because when we recorded, I accidentally muted myself in OBS, so Brandon can hear me, but yeah, I didn't get recorded. So what I was talking about here was that I was saying that I agreed that Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett for an interim title fight at flyweight made a lot of sense for me, and that I was totally cool with that idea. And then I also went on to mention the injury sustained by Brian Ortega, that we had heard that it was a torn labrum from some unofficial sources. So yeah, just gonna fast forward a little bit here because I was muted for a while, and Brandon will respond to everything I was saying in a bit.
Yeah, well, he has I guess just depending on what you're looking at, as far as that's the one thing that's so weird about MMA media, from opposed to like when you're watching something on the NFL and someone gives you, you're kind of like, okay, I've been hearing this from this person, that person, this story from this news source, but once you get something from this guy, then you know, okay, that's what it is. With everything else, you hear like, oh, he's always dealt with this, he's always had this, he's always had that, but it never feels like, or to me, it doesn't feel like there's a consensus of to we know what the hell. And then two, with the way these guys, Brian Ortega is not going to come out and say, yeah, I've always had problems with this shoulder, and then that's what happens. Because then the UFC, as scandalous as they are going to say, well, you had that problem, we're not fucking paying for your they should just be like, are you good? Get to the doctor, and here's a check for what you need therapy-wise, everything. The UFC is probably going to fight him tooth and nail for fucking x-ray costs. Because we'll talk about it. There's a gentleman who was fighting, and he was injured, and so the UFC is like, well, you brought it in to the fight. Like, and then the guy fumbled. They said that the guy literally fumbled because he said, oh, I tore my ACL before. And so now is the UFC going to be like, is that something you had and you brought it in? So you're never going to get, that true story. Whereas like other sports, it's just a given. If you're injured and you're with this franchise, then you're taken care of. So the medical history, the up-to-date medical stuff, we all know is we all know basically what it is, and they have it down. Where I'm sure if it was an injury to tuck into, he's not going to admit to it. He's going to say, no, I heard it in the cage while I was fighting for you at that time. Everybody saw it. It's on camera. You guys did. And it sucks that he has to do it that way, so we'll never really know, injury-wise.
That's a good point.
What it really was.
Before I get a little too ahead of myself, I want to apologize real quick to the listeners because I had my microphone muted for a second. Brandon, you were able to hear me, but the last question before that, I was totally muted, so they won't hear me in the audio.
I'm scared right now. I thought you were going to do like, ladies and gentlemen, there has been a bombing. That is right. Like, I thought you were going to do like, I hate to, Brandon, I don't know if you're able to see it because I know you're on your phone, but the first tower has gone down, like one of those. I got nervous as hell. I don't know if it's because I'm a little bit off the pin right now.
You're on edge, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just on edge. But...
just like I'm getting news in, 7 victims.
Yeah, I thought you were going to do like the latest news is, and then like you're gonna... And then like you like cut to like split screen, like the car like driving away. They have found the suspect, that is him. Because dude, you're a good, honestly, dude, you're a good fucking announcer. Because like I was like, whoa, what? And then like I started thinking, well, this is pre-recorded, so like whenever they get this, it's gonna be.
Way delayed, super.
Yeah,
that reminds me.
Like no one's gonna be looking for fucking our reaction to like some crazy world event that's happening while we're recording.
Dude, that reminds me of my other podcast that I do with my friend Israel. Yeah. There was one episode last year. You remember when we had those crazy earthquakes? There were like a few back-to-back, like within the span of a week. Yeah, well, one of those, like the really, really heavy one, hit while we were recording a podcast. Oh, so wow. We have our reaction recorded, and it was like, holy shit, is this the one? My stupid ass actually said that, yeah.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be crazy, though? Like, I'm sure they've already done that, but like that'd be a cool-ass fucking movie to where, like, you and me, like, you know what I mean? We're doing a fucking... for like half a baker's dozen worth of fucking people, and then like, but we're recording at the time, like a murder happens behind me or something, and like we just get it. How crazy would that be?
Or the end of the world. The end of the world is experienced from Brandon and Ephraim on their podcast.
Yeah, right.
Hilarious. But yeah, no, a little bit of audio issues, but it's only momentarily. I don't even think I'm even gonna go back and ask the question because I don't remember what I asked. But yeah,
that was on The Simpsons too. Like on Krusty's, like, ladies and gentlemen, the United Kingdom has invaded the Balkan Islands. If you do not, and then like he pulls down the map and he's like, it was the classic or because they're like summer camp. Oh, it's like the crusty reruns. Like and then he's like, yeah, we just loop whatever bullshit in, and then it's nothing topical. Like there's no date, and then he's like, ladies and gentlemen, the Bucket Islands have it. And it's like it's the first fucking. Oh man, I don't know why I think like that.
But let's get back to the fight. What did you before the unfortunate ending? What did you think about how the fight was playing out? Were there any what did you think? How were you scoring that first round before the ending? Because
I thought Yair was at least because in any fight you base off the first 20 minutes. Like every Peter Yan fight, he's gonna lose. You know, so our first 20 minutes, not even that. Like the first minute or two, like every our first round for that matter. Like, you know, some guys are slow starters, and who knew what the game plan was where Brian was going to fill it out because it was a 5-rounder, so he may have wanted to like conserve, but it looked like Yair was kind of like active, like he wanted to win. So
yeah, it looked like to me it looked like Yair was getting the better of the stand up. Like I said, we only had 4 minutes 11 seconds of a round to look at. I don't remember how many, if any, takedown attempts there were from Brian Ortega, but that is I was a little bit kind of perplexed and frustrated to see how things were playing out on the ground because it was off of an errant kick, right? That Yair went down, which is how I knew the fight would end up getting to the ground because I just have no faith in Brian Ortega's wrestling at this point.
And
a lot of people are asking like, what's next for Brian Ortega after this? Obviously, he's going to need some time off. For me, I would hope that the answer is a wrestling coach because I've said it before. I'm kind of I get really frustrated with dudes who are phenomenal offensive BJJ like aces, like really, really dangerous. And Brian Ortega legitimately is like. He's probably going to be favored against pretty much anybody he ends up on the ground with at at featherweight. But I want to see him be able to get it there and not just be like, oh shit, I'm getting pieced up. Now what happens? Like now I have to count on this guy to fuck up and slip or you know, just a crazy scramble. So yeah, I would like to see him take this opportunity to come back better, really put his nose to the grindstone because I think he's a fun addition to this top 5 at featherweight because nobody else is really bringing that kind of submission threat to the top of this division. So
and he has power. He has legit knockout power. He can put it on somebody if he gets the right, and so it makes it's just that much more frustrating. If it was like more of an open weight situation and it was just pure Brazilian jiu-jitsu against guys that were significantly 2, maybe even 3 weight classes higher, he would still be, if not a favorite, like even against top BJJ practitioners, he would be favored in almost any matchup you put against him. There's a few guys I'm sure you couldn't, but you would definitely be super exciting. And so when you say that having that glaring of a hole in such pretty much the consistency, like no matter what it is, every wrestler that comes out of the Olympics, they're going to get a call like, do you want to come do this? Whereas judo guys, karate guys, look at Pereira has been one of the best strikers in the world in kickboxing, but he just hasn't kind of made that leap because the wrestling's just not there. And so it's so frustrating. He could be so great, but far be it for us to really explain like what he needs to do. But
yeah, it's just kind of like definitely. I'm not one to go and start giving tips about like this is kind of wrestling. This is how you shoot a single leg.
It's a wizard. Everybody knows.
Yeah, but it just seems to be in that transitional period of MMA where he seems a little bit lost. And I really like to see what it looks like when Brian Ortega can dictate where the fight happens, as opposed to just being along for the ride.
Right.
But to move on to our co-main event, an unexpected submission win. Amanda Lemos gets a guillotine submission over Michelle Waterson in round 2 at 1 minute and 48 seconds into round 2. This fight was going kind of the way that I was expecting it a bit at first. I was kind of predicting that Michelle Waterson would give Amanda Lemos some problems with her footwork. And I'm not saying it would have been a Michelle Water that she was cruising to a decision, because we know it's always risky with the judges when you employ that kind of a game plan where there's just really not a whole lot happening, and when you're jabbing from about 3 feet away from your opponent and not getting anywhere near her.
Yeah.
But she was having some success with the leg kicks, with the kicks to the body, and Amanda Lemos managed to put it on her a little bit too, and she landed some heavy strikes. But I don't really remember how this fight went to the ground though. But
no, not specifically off the top of my head. I feel like it was more of a scramble because Watterson at some point, she was like you had mentioned, she was kind of like more of like a fencing type of thing where she was trying to like dive in and get from outside and kind of like swoop in. I think she at one point she started her takedowns, and I could be wrong, but I think it kind of came off of like maybe a takedown attempt that kind of like turned into like a free for all kind of scramble grappling thing, but I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I would need to look it up.
Lemos, she's so fucking strong.
She's so threatening too.
Yeah.
She climbs to a record of 12-2. Meanwhile, Michelle Watterson falls to 18-10. It's been pretty rough for Michelle Watterson right now. She is on. I believe she's won 1 of her last 5 fights. No. Actually, yeah. Amanda Lemos lost. Marina Rodriguez lost. Both killer competition at strawweight. She has a split decision win over Angela Hill, and then before that, she has a loss to Carla Esparza and then a loss to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So, it looks bad. Her record is pretty rough, dating back to late 2019. But when you look at some of the names that she's fought, there's a current champion on there. There's a former champ. And there are the two girls that we mentioned in the last episode who were kind of really getting by in this division off of their power. Amanda Lemos and Marina Rodriguez, nothing to scoff at all. But what was really most surprising to me is just how it ended. Amanda Lemos saw the opportunity and dove on a guillotine, which I didn't know that she had up her sleeve. And then there was a little bit of confusion because Michelle Watterson goes to tap, and she's tapping on Lemos's back.
The opposite side, yeah.
The ref doesn't see it, so there's a little bit of honor system going on where Lemos lets go, and Michelle Watterson might have potentially started going out because she was slow to rise. I don't know. I'd imagine in her head she's thinking like, do I act like I didn't tap or do I just fucking... But she played the game.
Uncle Chell, what would Uncle Chell have done, dude? I mean, didn't he... Wasn't he the king of that? Or didn't he do some shit like that where he tapped and then like they let him out and then he started fucking...
He claimed...
No, that wasn't me. Yeah.
Well, multiple times against Anderson Silva, he claimed that he thought a tap meant that you were giving up on that round. So it's like, if it's round 3 and I'm caught in a submission, I'll tap, and that just means I lost round 3. Then we continue to the next round. Obviously, but then he also tapped. He got subbed by Tito Ortiz. Out of that one, he legitimately claimed no. He almost subbed Tito Ortiz. That one he claimed that he felt the tap and that Tito tapped. And then Tito ended up escaping. But anyways. A little bit of weirdness. Watterson falls to 18-10, like I said. Amanda Lemos is probably, I heard them saying that this is going to keep her in the top 10, which is kind of surprising to hear them say that because I thought she was already kind of like in the top 5.
I thought she was a top 7 for sure. A name for me. I mean, she may not be with the number next to her, but she definitely is.
Yeah, and before this, she was coming off of that crazy, surprising, short loss to Jessica Andrade, the standing arm triangle choke. That, like I said, it's just I feel like if she would have beat Jessica Andrade in that fight, we probably would have been talking about Lemos as a title contender for sure. Easily. So for them to imply that she was like falling back to outside of the top 10, kind of surprising to me. But she gets the win. She's going to stick around. Is there any compelling matchups at the maybe 5 through 10 range of the strawweight division that you like for Amanda Lemos at this point?
No, not really. Yeah, bring it up and let's see what we can put together just off the rankings. Yeah.
You got it. Oh, this ranking is being updated. Let me reload the page. Literally, as we're recording this podcast, Tapology is updating. Oh, there it is. Okay. So We have Amanda Lemos is sitting at number 7 right now, just behind Mackenzie Dern. There's unbooked strawweights include Tisha Torres, Marina Rodriguez, Jessica Andrade again, but she's suffered from some kind of injury, which we'll get to.
Yeah,
in a
she's
bit.
right.
Yeah. There's Thug Rose Namajunas. Who knows when she'll be back? So those are kind of the girls in the top 10 that are available.
You wouldn't think Rose and her would be a good fight. That would be a sneaky good, like, maybe not the first fight out of the gate, but like the second maybe, where it's like a main card, or maybe like that would have been a good. Well, I guess Rose is a pay-per-view draw, even after the one loss that she had. Or that was a pretty bad one, but I think she still would be on a pay-per-view card rather than like the feature fight of Fight Night like this one was. But that would have been a good one for this card.
I could see it being like a fight night headliner. And you know, Rose was weirdly popular. I never got it. I never understood it. I was the biggest Rose hater, but she was popular, and I have a feeling that when she is allegedly popular. I have a feeling that when she finally comes,
no, was the biggest hater. I mean, she was allegedly popular, but was the biggest hater. You still are the biggest.
Oh, did I say was? Okay. No, I'm still definitely am the biggest Rose Namajunas hater.
Right.
But I think when she comes back, whoever it's against, as long as it's not Carla Esparza again, I think that the fan base is going to give her the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, we're going to assume that last one was because of Carla. But either way, I think that would be an interesting fight. I think Tisha Torres would probably be an interesting fight. I kind of feel bad for Tisha. She came up on the short end of that Mackenzie Dern fight that we thought that she won. So I think that'd be a good opportunity. Yeah, and Amanda Lemos is, at least on Tapology, she's like 2 spots ahead of her in the rankings. So I think that would be a compelling fight. I think it would be pretty interesting. What about Michelle Watterson? Retirement?
Yeah.
Atomweight division?
Yeah, I guess, right? Do they even have an atomweight division?
No, but that's one I've definitely been wanting them to start for a while. I think that they could bring in a lot of really good Asian fighters to fill that division up really fast.
I bet you would. I bet you would like to see a little bit more of that, wouldn't you, buddy?
And plenty of strawweights would probably drop down to 105 too. So that would easily probably become like the second or third best women's division in the UFC. Michelle Watterson's been kind of hanging on to top 10, top 15 ranking for a while, but now, like I mentioned, having gone 1-4 in her last 5 fights, I think it's time that she drops out of the top 15 completely. If she wants to stick around, I still think she's a really good test for a lot of up-and-coming fighters. I think just her durability alone, that was only the second time she's ever been finished, so just her durability alone is going to be a good test for some of these girls who might not pack as much of a punch. So, you know, she's just not going to go away, and that's going to give a lot of girls problems. So, yeah, interesting stuff happening at the strawweight division as usual. Do you want to introduce the next fight on the card to us? I know you had some fondness for
by far
Li Jingliang.
Li Jingliang. I felt like he's such a good fighter. He seems like a cool guy too. I remember he was there. He was a very good sport after the Hamzat fight, where he was kind of like he was a good sport about it in like in the press conferences leading up to Hamzat's next again, and they go over Burns. He like showed up and started making jokes about how bad he lost, and he was or like, what would you like? What was it that he asked through his, like, what would you give me as like to like for my career? Or what did he ask Hamzat what he would give him? Or what, like, if he had any like tips or tricks to like winning his next fight or something like that. He was like being really cool about it. Where a lot of guys would kind of bitch out, like, I didn't lose, or that was a fluke. He was kind of good spirited, and then now fucking look at him, like he looked great, and he's not the best, like he's not like a world class killer ass boxer, but he can make you look. That's not the first time he's made someone look stupid with his hands. So he kind of like does the right things to catch you in. And it looked pretty. The way he was slipping and countering looked really nice.
Yeah. Definitely very underrated in how well rounded he is, Li Jingliang. And when he's when he's not facing somebody who's just a fucking powerhouse wrestler who completely shut him down, he looked really capable here. To be fair, Muslim Salikov wasn't giving him a ton of looks, or rather, the looks that he was giving him were the same over and over and over, just spamming those back kicks. And I picked Muslim Salikov. I showed you my verdict picks. I did fucking horrible. I went 1-6. Really, really bad night for me. It's going to totally fuck up my average for the year. I think it's probably the second card that I've gone 1-6 or 1-5 on in the year, so pretty bad.
MMA is one of those things where you kind of get, especially when you're looking at it like where a verdict type app is, where you kind of got to pick parlay style. You kind of get this flow of how you think of how not just one fight, but how a whole card can kind of go, and like you kind of go like, this is how it, cause like more of a production than it is fight by fight by fight.
Yeah,
and so. At least that's how I feel when I'm betting parlays or anything. Whereas like you kind of try and get a flow for the card, where that's kind of not how that you should not be doing it that way, because that's like romanticizing it, you know. So I don't know, maybe I could be wrong, but I feel like when you're picking multiple fights, you kind of get in like that can happen easily, where you just whiff on a few. It's not that you don't know what you're talking about, you just maybe have a rough night.
Yeah, no, that checks out. The most randomest shit will throw me off of my picks sometimes if I go and look at them as a whole. So I think you're absolutely right about, you really have to just look at it as on a fight by fight basis, because there have been times when I'm doing my verdict picks and I'll go through and I'm really making those picks fight by fight. I'm not looking at it as a whole until the end, when I click back and I see all the picks that I've made and I realize like, oh, did I really pick for 4 fights in a row to end in submission? Yeah. That's not really likely to happen. So let's like, and sometimes it does. There was one. So you really can't take anything that happened in the previous fight and just be like, oh, that can't possibly happen again, because I think it's like when you're looking at a Scantron. And even though like you're taking a test and you're like, you bubbled it in and you realize like, fuck, that's the 4th answer that I've had, like, where I put B. That just, what are the odds, you know?
Yeah.
I'll psych myself out and I overthink some shit sometimes. And I definitely was overthinking stuff on that Michelle Watterson Amanda Lemos fight again too, because I don't know. I guess I was rooting for Michelle Watterson, but Muslim Salikov was spinning those back kicks. I was spamming those spinning back kicks. And it did reasonably well for him for the better of like 2 rounds, I could say.
Yeah.
I think I had Muslim Salikov winning, even though it was spammy. I felt like when he was landing those kicks, they were counting for more than I was seeing coming from
had a few, like,
Li Jingliang.
Like he had a few like throws, or he had a few like kind of like imposing moments where he was kind of directing how the fight was going, where Liang was being a little more reactive to what Salikov was doing. Yeah. But I think that was kind of Liang's kind of more wanting to counter off what I think what Salikov does isn't too, I guess what we saw now too, especially is if you kind of know what he's doing and how to read his feints and his fakes, then you kind of can put yourself in there for a big counter, which once he was downloading through the whole fight. Now that's kind of clear what he was doing. Like that's what I saw. I saw that feint. I saw this spin. He's gonna turn. His shoulder's gonna dip, and then once he put it all together, then it just all. And kudos to Li Jingliang for putting it all together. Because sometimes you can be doing that the whole fight, and then you're like, shit, I did it. I slipped, or he actually kind of like drew back in the last second, and I way overextended on this counter, and I just got kicked in the fucking liver, or whatever it is, and then you wasted the whole fight kind of setting up that moment. So good on him for putting it all together and making it work for him.
Yeah. And for a guy who, and I don't know this about Li Jingliang, if he's inherently good at making those reads and downloading his opponents and stuff like that, but for a guy who is, Muslim Selikhov is inherently a readable guy. Like, he's not a constant pressure guy. He's not, it's one thing to try and read or download Nate Diaz when he's like in the pocket, you're fucking tired, and he just keeps touching you. Not the hardest, but still just pitter patter, like it's coming from all directions, and you just don't get a chance to even analyze it. Not the case with Muslim Selikhov, where you kind of know it's going to be circle, 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 feint the jab, spinning back kick, and repeat. So happy for Li Jingliang. Muslim Selikhov, I think, will grow from this. He's not. I don't think it's going to be like too big of a hit. Yeah, he'll be around. He's an interesting enough prospect, and I think he's an exciting enough prospect too. I mean, all it's going to take is for one of those spinning back kicks to KO somebody in his next fight before everyone's like,
for me, what it was with Liang is like, and we talk about it all the time, is like the eye test thing, just like his gait, like when you see the way he moves, like his posture in the cage. His like he doesn't really like panic. He's really things. It looks like it's slowed down for him. Where sometimes you watch fighters, and whether it's in their own head or they just don't have the experience. They move too fast, or they kind of like they're making these these errors that they normally wouldn't make if they weren't real like anxious about what they're doing. Where it seems like he's very confident in himself. He's super confident. He's aware of who he is. He's self-aware of the type of fighter he is, and he's able to keep that in the back of his mind, while at the same time kind of keeping a closer eye on his opponent and making sure he maximizes those errors that they make. So that's a hard thing to do as an athlete, and you can see that in him. He has that gene to where he can do what he did on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to second you on that. Commending his mental fortitude too, because like some people might disagree because of how badly he got smashed by Khamzat Chimaev, but it wasn't because he lost the mental battle.
A lot of people lost to sorry, I don't want to like ball wash Khamzat, but like a lot of people lost to Michael Jordan, like, you know what I'm saying, like up on the way. Like there's dudes like Craig Elo was this amazing player for the Pistons, or not was not the Pistons, but for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was amazing, and then Michael Jordan just made this shot that we see all the fucking time now. Yeah. And at the time, it was like, oh, Craig Elo was fucking whack. Yeah. And a lot of people don't even think about that guy anymore. Like that shit just happened. And I feel like Chimaev could be that guy where he's like the next like phenom. So.
Yeah, and it's tougher in MMA too, because you don't get to go out there and perform as often as you do as if you were in an NBA player in the middle of their season. You
just go out. So next game, next night.
Yeah. So like it's very telling for Li Jingliang to go out there and have just an ego crushing performance against Khamzat Chimaev, where a lot of guys could potentially break from that, and for him to roll with the punches, come back stronger, be a good sport about it, like you mentioned, and be able to actually like ask Khamzat Chimaev for advice afterwards. Like a lot of guys have way too much of an ego for that kind of reaction to losing the way he did. But here, I don't think we have to worry about the mentality of Li Jingliang moving forward. Excited about that. Let's talk about the next fight between Matt Schnell and Suma Dairaji, easily the fight of the night. This was like all of the back and forth momentum of Glover Teixeira versus Yuri Prochazka just compressed into one round. Actually chaos, 2 rounds. Dude. Yeah.
It was just chaos.
I picked Suma Dairaji by TKO or KO by round 2 in my verdict
you
picks.
were right there. I mean,
I was like
right there.
I was like, how many more of these elbows does he need to hit him with?
He was walking like he was literally glazed eye dead. Like when he was there was one where he like crossed his legs as he was stepping. Like it looked like he was like on his way to fall down and just die. And to come back from that, you like, man, that is crazy.
And Daniel Cormier, I have to agree with what he was saying in commentary too. It's like it looked like every time that Suma Dairaji was landing that standing elbow, that it was just like freezing Matt Schnell. That it was just like, oh, did I get hit with that? And there's like a split second, and he hit him with at least like 3 or 4 of them. And it was an interesting setup too, where it was like, okay, you're stunned. I'm gonna come forward, just grab your wrists and then turn it, and it just clip you with it. It was beautiful, but man, credit to Matt Schnell and his chin, his heart, everything. Like he had to dig. Like if there was any kind of like an instance of like these fights where it's like if they had life bars, this dude had a fucking sliver left.
Yeah,
and
he was
turned it
one
around.
left. Yeah. That's a crazy. You're right. And from what I understand, he was having a rough time with like getting back in the cage, and wasn't on the wasn't as far like career wise. These two dudes were kind of on opposite ends of that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Where a bad loss, if he just continues to get like murk like that, like they probably would have took a long hard look at like what his next, where he goes from there. Whereas now he's just like he has that folk, and it doesn't last as long in the UFC as it does in other sports, but because they won't fight for as long, that he's going to be able to ride that wave. So hopefully he can and ride it into like a few more fights where I'm sure it would, if he would have taken like the way it was looking type of loss, that could have been a real career like crossroads for him, I think.
Yeah. And for his troubles, he gets an extra $50,000 for the fight of the night. Yeah. And Dana White probably called him a kid at the post-fight press conference. But you make a really good point, though, about that. Like, if he had come up short in this one, it would have probably been a little bit of necessitate a little bit of soul-searching on Matt Schnell's part, because he was coming off of 2 losses to Rogerio Bontorin and Brandon Royval coming into this fight.
Yeah. And 2 good fighters. I mean, not bad. It's not a bad way to go out.
Yeah, and before that, he had a win over Tyson Nam and then a loss to Alexandre Pantoja. I don't blame anybody for coming up short against Pantoja. That guy's a world beater.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's had other instances in his career where he's had multiple losses in a row consecutively. He had a pretty bad like 2016 and 2017. No, he went 2-2 in 2016. But anyways, I digress. Yeah, back in the win column. And Suma Dairji, despite coming up short, still looks like one of the more promising Chinese prospects coming out of that part of the world, because he was really getting the screws put to him at the beginning of that second round also, before he turned it around and started to have success on the feet, and then it got turned around again. It was just crazy fight. Yeah, that's
a crazy fight.
That's if both of these guys can keep their names like in people's mouths, I guess, can keep garnering attention, that's a potential Hall of Fame fight in the future. I mean,
and then the fact that he had a torn ACL like throughout the whole thing, because I remember he came out in knee sleeves, and it's like, what the heck, like, okay, like take it take it easy, dude, like Shinya Aoki or like someone like that, and then it came out that he had a ACL, and he admitted it, and they're like, dude, you shouldn't have said that. You should have said you tore your ACL in the fight, because they'll take care of your surgery.
Yeah.
Now, if you say I got it in camp, they have no liability. I'm sure a upstanding company like the UFC is going to do the right thing here. So we might just be talking about it. Or did he give that? He's like, sorry, man, I had that. How much is that? $250K. Well, I gave it to this crypto casino owner.
Ask that guy. I'll call him and I'll tell him to have it for you. Just call him up, ask him. I'm sure there'll be a lot of success there. I didn't know about that. I didn't know he had an injury going into the fight. I noticed
torn ACL.
I noticed the knee wraps, but I hadn't heard a confirmed injury. That's even crazier. I would just worry though, because like these are both of these guys are. Let's say they both go on some losing streaks after this, just end up getting cut by the UFC. It's potential that they could just get forgotten about forever, and that fight never makes it into the Hall of Fame.
I don't think Duarji will. I think he's a damn good fighter, and I think it makes a little sense that I think if he didn't have a torn ACL in that fight, I think he dominates. He dominates like pretty significantly, and goes on to win in a dominating way. Like, and I think. Because a torn ACL, and especially with the way that these guys were fighting, you can't tell me that didn't swing the fight like in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. And as long as one of them kind of stays in people's minds and kind of ascends, then it'll be a shoo-in. And good for them.
It was so crazy because I think you sent me. Did you send me the link or that link of him, that photo where he let Chanel's getting up and is like excited that he won, and Sumerwaji's just out cold, and he's like they're both full of blood, and I guess it was on ESPN, and like these like casual type fans were going on and like, this isn't a real sport. This is human cockfighting.
That
This
guy
is
looks
fucking
dead.
gross.
This is barbaric. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You need to put like a comment like or like a NSFW tag on this,
Disclaimer.
and it's like, yeah, and it's like, well,
This shit was on
if
ABC.
yeah,
ABC
but
didn't need
it's
a
like,
disclaimer. Oh, maybe they did.
well, it's like
I didn't watch it on ABC.
ABC has given ABC ESPN has given a platform to literal serial killers like Aaron Hernandez. The guy who was a fucking psychopath, murderer, and and then he killed himself, and then they come to find out it was brain injuries. So if you were to watch Aaron Hernandez's career, there's nothing you would see like that was anywhere close to the level of violence while he was playing, and that would match the like optically what we saw with Matt Schnell and Sumerwaji, right? But what you don't know is, especially for a guy like that, and for a lot of these NFL athletes, is they're like basically getting into mini car attacks every fucking play, and or car attacks, sorry, car crashes every play. They're getting into like a minor car crash, like as far as their head, as far as offensive lineman, you're getting like a 300-pound man taking a 7-yard dash into your face every single play. And so we're seeing guys like Aaron Hernandez, go on these crazy ass murder sprees, or I mean, allegedly he murdered like 3 people or whatever it was, and then they find out he had like basically the scans of his brain were like, yeah, this guy like is insane. A guy I know who was really scary, and I'm not sure if you're aware of it. Philip Adams, who used to play for the Niners, played for the Raiders and a few other teams. He like killed a doctor, his wife, and his 2 grandkids, like on a murder spree, and then killed himself. They scanned his brain. He has like crazy CTE. There's nothing about Philip Adams' career that looked any crazy. But there's so many of these guys in the NFL. Junior Seau, all these guys, they like kill themselves, and one guy shot himself in the chest. So that you can see my brain. And so these people are on there like, this is gross, blah blah. Bro, you're literally watching murderers play. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and as bad as like War Machine was, or Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy was a NFL player. Like, those are the types of people. And then, not to say like every UFC fighter is like, but there's a lot less, at least what you would call per capita, of like psychopathic brain damage later on than you would see. Like what do we got? BJ Penn running for governor? Like, what the fuck? As far as the UFC goes. So I just hate it when people talk so much shit about this isn't a real sport, or because I'm the biggest football fan out there, but you can't say like football isn't any worse on people's bodies,
right?
Especially minds, than the UFC. I would, my daughter, if she said I want to play football and she's in Muay Thai now, I'd say you would probably take less damage in Muay Thai, more than likely.
Absolutely.
That's crazy to say. That's crazy to say, especially if you put them in the right situation.
Yeah, the optics. That enough will do it. Like, people see blood. People see people like visually knocked out, like actually out cold, and they don't have the buffer of, like, for one, the camera just being so much farther away. 2, they're not in a helmet and pads and all that stuff too. Because sometimes you see like these plays happen, and granted, there's dudes all over the field too, but sometimes these plays happen and they don't even realize till after the play is wrapped up, and they're like, oh, that guy's not getting up. And it's easy to miss because there's dudes all laid out all over the place. But if you just go by the numbers, the actual statistics, there's no mixed martial artists, at least on the highest
O.J.
stage
Simpson.
that we know.
You ever heard of them?
Who are we don't have guys shooting themselves in the chest to preserve their brain to prove that they were and having suffering from CTE.
There was a linebacker for the Chiefs, murdered his girlfriend, went to the facility like apologized and thanked everybody, then murdered himself in the like. No one ever like that's a crazy thing. Like the NFL literally like pays huge PR firms to like so that we don't hear that shit. So like that's kind of shocking. Like it should be more of a like, hey, like, this is kind of wild. Like it's not going to stop me from watching it.
Yeah.
If my kid wants to play it, I'm going to say like, yeah, fucking let's go. You know, you can play, but it's still kind of like, hey, let's look into that. You know, like you guys have had literal like guys go on murder sprees, or what about like one of the top running backs for your team, Joe Mixon. He's on camera smashing a woman's face in on camera, and the guy's like was in the Super Bowl. They were talking about him as this X Factor. There's literal camera evidence.
I've seen.
I guarantee you, there is nothing Suma Duarji has ever done anywhere close to that. Or Matt Schnell. Like I'm sure Matt Schnell never even thought about just smashing a random woman's face in at a bar.
I've seen that footage too, that Joe Mixon footage, and it was entirely a situation where he could have still just gotten up and walked away at any second. Like it was not he was not fighting for his life, and he decked this woman. So and it's ugly, and here you have him a few years later, and he is like not on a Wheaties box, but you know, he's being celebrated like as a factor. You know what I mean? Like a fucking this young talent. And I feel like if we had that on the other end of the spectrum in our little fucking hodink sport, which we've had our war machines and stuff like that, but that stuff tends to be more sensationalized, I would say. Yeah, because we're just a bunch of dumb cage fighters and ravenous, like bloodthirsty fans and just bleed and
Well, I've been on both
and we are. I want to see all the most brutal shit. I want to see whenever a guy gets a cut in the corner. I want the cut man to open that shit up for the camera just a little bit, see if we could see bone. Love when they cut away to people's families crying on the side of the cage. Love that shit. Live for it. Who cares about the fights?
But I went off on a little bit of a tangent, and I'm sorry, but it just really like as someone who I've played football at an amateur level, and I've like been in locker rooms with football players, and now I've been around people Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, and you know, you like if I had to like trust one side, I would trust the martial artists way more with my own health or training with them, knowing that they're not trying to kill me because they know how it is. As football player, you're just trying to fucking kill each other. You know?
I agree. By the way, it's Muay Thai.
Muay
Thai. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How am I saying it?
I don't know. I'm just fucking around with you.
I don't know, dumbass.
Sounded right by all accounts. Last fight, because I didn't get a chance to watch much of the prelims. No, actually, I did. The two more fights we can talk about or touch on. Shane Burgos versus Charles Jourdain. Lauren Murphy versus Misha Tate. Not a lot to say about Shane Burgos, Charles Jourdain. Good fight, entertaining fight. Could have potentially been fight of the night before the Matt Schnell Suma Duarji fight. But I did think that the decision went the wrong way on this one. I had Charles Jourdain winning. I believe it was the first and third round. Unfortunate, not a full-on robbery. It's not one I would bring out the gavel for. But unfortunate for Charles Jourdain. And now his record's not looking super, super, super hot. He's fell to 13-5. Shane Burgos climbs to 15-3. Shane Burgos likely a rising star for this division. I think that he's probably in for, let me take a look at his ranking really quick. It's ranked number 14, so I think he's probably definitely looking somewhere around the 9 to 11 range for his next matchup, which will probably come sooner than later because I don't remember there being any mention during the post-fight press conference or anything about him getting an
Madison
injury.
Square Garden by November, right? They said Madison Square Garden in November, so if he's a Long Island or he's a New York guy, like they're probably going to want to put him out there.
He seems lined up for that for sure. I'm taking a look at the rankings to see what makes sense for him. Guys ahead of him who are not booked currently. But he already fought Edson Barbosa, so I don't know if. Yeah. I mean, I'd watch the hell out of that fight if they booked it again. Let me see. Dan Ige is available. He doesn't have any fights booked.
A good one.
and Movsar Evloev. That's a fucking tough fight for him right there. I don't know if I'd give him Movsar.
Yeah, don't give. Yeah. No. Because then that's just hype train derailed right there.
I think, and you know what? Let me know if you don't think this is a good idea. This is a pretty big jump for him rankings wise, but when you hear the name, you might think like that's actually kind of makes sense. This is Shane Burgos, ranked number 14, the number 8th ranked fighter at featherweight without a fight right now. Korean Zombie. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't like that for Korean Zombie.
I wouldn't either.
I like it for Burgos. Yeah, I like it for Burgos, but you don't want to come off of what you came off of and come after someone who is like super hungry right now and riding and would probably feel like, I'm sure deep down, these fighters know when they get the close decisions and they know that they were close. And he legitimately could sit there and be like, I fucking won this fight. That, you know, who am I to say like you didn't win it? I agree with you that Charles won it, but I mean, it definitely wasn't for Burgos not trying to end that guy's life in the cage. Like that guy goes hard as fuck in the paint. So, one thing I would say was that I would not like that for Korean. It's a good idea, but I would not like that as like one guy kind of just wanting to like ride off into the sunset, and then one guy that like has like, you can tell has clear set goals, and violence is like the means to get to where he wants to go. And he has that like New York mindset, and he'll grind the shit out of you. So that could be a long ass night, especially if it's like they were saying that Korean Zombie in Korea or something, right? Like he wants it there. So like, yeah, shit, that wouldn't be.
Yeah, if you're gonna go through the trouble of booking him a fight and letting him fight at home in Korea, you want to give him a winnable fight that he can ride into the sunset with. So good point on that. I think it'd be an intriguing fight. I wouldn't count out Korean Zombie completely, but I would be a little bit worried too, especially with the takedown game that Shane Burgos was using, which kind of surprised me. I thought that it would stay on the feet completely.
It's just mental with him. Shane, you can just tell that guy just like, I need to fucking hurt you. Yeah. Whether he's winning the fight or losing the fight, he's always trying to inflict the maximum amount of damage on the person ahead of him. Like even as he's going down, he's trying to fucking actively hurt you.
I know you don't like to speak on this type of stuff so much because we, you know, for whatever reason, we don't feel qualified or whatever. But what areas? What do you think are some areas for improvement that Shane Burgos can use? Like what kind of? Because like you said, we did both kind of think that he should have came up short in this fight, and part of it might have come down to the game planning. He was shooting a lot of takedowns that weren't really getting him anywhere. But what do you think?
The chain wrestling, more so like the chain wrestling type thing where like, okay, this didn't work out. I move my wrist this way, or I go from a double or shoot the hip, you know, like kind of like, okay, this didn't work. Instead of just kind of like motivating yourself and willing yourself to a takedown or to like finally getting the guy down, to like kind of being able to flow with his grappling a little bit better. But like I said, I really would. That'd definitely be way outside of the range of what I'm fucking capable of talking about. But if I see from what I saw Saturday, it worked for him, albeit for us to say that, but like just kind of I would say that, like kind of transitioning better with the grappling and flowing more instead of just having it in your mind how you want to take them down, and just it's the only way I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get it some way or another.
I was kind of excited by the wrestling offense that he was employing. Like I said, even though it wasn't really working so well, I think it's cool, especially against a guy like Charles Jourdain, where we saw like towards the end of the fight, he was really emptying his tank on Burgos and really being super offensive. And I kind of think that he probably maybe would have done that sooner if not for him constantly having to look for that wrestling threat and thinking about that. But I joked about this in our preview, our breakdown episode for this fight too, and it's just that I picked Charles Jourdain because I've said that I felt like he had more of a sense of self-preservation than Shane Burgos. Yeah. And I would say for me, that's where I would like to see Shane Burgos kind of work on a little bit, is just not being as willing to block punches with his face. And just employ probably a little bit more head movement and just try to be hit less and hit his opponents more, because he just seems willing to dive into the fire, and it's super entertaining, and he's kind of made his name off of it. So who am I to say change that? Because that's why people know Shane Burgos' name. But I would worry about it impacting the length of his career.
Good point. No, yeah, that's a good point, man. And sometimes, but it kind of. I completely understand how you would, especially when you put it that way, as far as not so much saying because we want you to do that because then you would be better than you are. It's more so like so you'll be around longer,
or
so
to stick around.
You.
I like because I like Shane Burgos, and that's something that I always think about when I like a fighter and they're still far. They haven't even had their crack at the title yet. Like they're just like, you got to climb up the rankings. Not only do you have to ideally get there, but then you gotta want to stay there. I worry about fighters' durability when I get on when I kind of jump on the bandwagon when they're still kind of like in the earlier
I understand that.
mid part of their careers. So Shane Burgos, if you ever listen to this, please don't think I'm capping on your fighting style. I just want you to stay around, my baby.
Yeah, no, but yeah, and too, like what we saw, I think it was in the last round where he had his arm cinched around Jourdain's waist and like was trying to get the back, and he's just going holding. Whereas, okay, that's not working, bro. And maybe it was the end, and he was just tired. And then Jourdain's like, "Come on, let's go!" Like, what the hell? And then that was like the first time I had ever seen where the guy didn't do anything but just say, "Hey, what the heck?" And Burgos was like, "Yeah, you're right." And then he goes, "Yeah, let's fucking fight." Whereas, dude, you're around his back. You're going for the takedown. You're trying to like kind of trip him and pull him down to hold him down to be in the dominant position for the end of the fight.
Yeah.
And you could tell like he kind of just got caught in between thoughts, or Burgos anyway got caught in between thoughts of that, and just he goes, no, maybe that's what they told him. Like, if you're in this position and he probably felt he was winning up until that point, I'm going to take him down. I'm going to be on top in the dominant position to end the fight, and I'll get the fight. I'll like cap it off, like close that fight out. And he just kept doing it, and it looked bad. And I think he felt it, and Jourdain's like, "What the hell, dude?" And he's like, "You're right," and then let him go. And then they started fucking throwing down again. So pretty crazy. Never seen that before.
It was a good one. All right, last fight that we're going to talk about on this card. Lauren Murphy climbs to 16-5 after she earns a unanimous decision win over Miesha Tate, who, upon returning from her retirement, has had middling to mixed results. Seemed all but ready to talk her way into a flyweight title fight against the queen, Valentina Shevchenko. And Valentina Shevchenko, I mean, to Miesha Tate's credit, Valentina was also saying her name and saying, like, yeah, sure, I guess that would make sense. I'll fight her if she gets this win. So the stars were aligning. Everything was fucking coming up Miesha Tate. And then it looked like a Miesha Tate fight, and she lost pretty handily. Unanimous, no split decision here. I don't know how people didn't see this. First of all, this is
a bad fight.
It was a bad fight. First of all, this is the only fight I got right on verdict. So, of course, I'm going to fucking come out and, like, fucking slam dunk. I don't understand what people saw in her fights against Marion Renault and Ketlin Vieira that made her thought that she was going to hang with Lauren Murphy. Maybe it was the fact that she was younger, which I actually wasn't aware of. Like we mentioned in the last episode, I thought that Miesha Tate was the older fighter. I was wrong. Lauren Murphy's 38, which is prehistoric for a flyweight. That's getting up there in age. So I'm actually my hat kind of goes off. I actually have more respect for Lauren Murphy coming out of this fight now, knowing that she's that much older. But both of them looked bad. The hands
bad.
It's one of those cases where I'm surprised that even for Lauren Murphy that she won this fight. Like, how are you at the top of this division and your punches look like that still?
Yeah.
It's like almost some Keith Jardine level type of awkwardness in the punches where she's not turning her fist
Ronda
over.
Rousey type. Yeah, that Ronda Rousey thing where she just kind of looks weird. It just doesn't look right. It looks like I'm supposed to be punching right now, so that's what I'm doing, kind of thing.
Yeah, she's doing a lot of this where she's like not turning the fist over, and it was bad. Like it worked against Miesha Tate, but I did definitely see both of those girls walk into some jabs that they probably shouldn't have. But Lauren Murphy's a bully, if you ask me, okay, what are Lauren Murphy's strengths in terms of like her skill, like her output, I don't really know. Aside from the fact that she's durable and she's mean and she's gonna outwork you. She doesn't. Nothing she does looks nice, but she's just fucking gritty. And yeah, it didn't turn out well for Miesha Tate. Miesha Tate is now 1-2 since her, since she came out of retirement. I think she should go back to retirement. Unless she's, because she looked good as a flyweight. It's like, okay, credit to her. Like, she looks great. Like, she looked better than she did when she was weighing in for her bantamweight fights.
I agree with you.
But this flyweight division is, for anybody that's paying attention, it's getting a lot deeper. And I don't even see, even if Miesha Tate just decided, like, well, I have this many fights in my contract still. I don't actually know how many fights she has on her contract. But if she decided, okay, I'm going to start at like number 12 and actually work my way up the flyweight division, it's going to be a bad fucking time for her. So I don't.
As crazy as it sounds, I feel like she's in a different sport now. WMMA has evolved so much to the point from where she was in the title contention.
Yeah,
WMMA is like taking leaps and bounds, and it's MMA at its core, but you can definitely see from when she was, and that wasn't that long ago, when she was really in her heyday, and to where WMA is now. I feel like she's not even in the same sport anymore. Oh, pretty close, because these gals have gotten so good at what they do, and they're more than just specialists now. They're more than just jiu-jitsu players or strikers, or I had a good record in boxing or judokas. Like you see these fighters are put everything together now.
Yeah,
WMA, and especially at the top where Miesha wants to be around, you're not going to get like a Ronda Rousey type or just a striker type, and you can kind of like, it's touch and go. Now you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to be more than just competent in every facet of fighting, where I think it's just passed her by now. I mean, it's obvious. You can see it. So
yeah, and like to your point too, for one, WMMA has changed a lot already in her age, because she was out for like 4 years in her retirement. It was surprisingly long. Yeah. I kind of thought like, I don't know, it's been 2.5, 3 years maybe, but 4 years. I was surprised to hear that she had been gone that long. I guess she hasn't been gone long enough for me to miss her. And then moving to flyweight, like, MMA's changed so much. If anything, bantamweight hasn't changed that much, in my opinion. But even then, I just still feel, because it's such a weak division in my eyes, I feel like she probably would have been better off staying there, especially if she's just trying to talk herself into a quick title fight, because we don't know what's going to happen with the Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes situation. So, I mean, if Juliana Pena shocks the world and gets it again, I mean, that division's technically wide open. And I would I would give Miesha Tate like way more of a shot against Juliana Pena than almost anyone in the top 5 at flyweight. But I don't know. Maybe I'm not cutting Juliana Pena enough, giving her enough credit. But I don't
know. It's just it. Well, to kind of renege on what I said as far as like being such a different sport, it is, and then in some cases it isn't. So where like the depth of high quality talent in each division isn't there, but I feel like when you get to the top, where like she's just not going to be able to get over the title hump. She has a better than average shot of getting there, but there's absolutely no chance that she's even, she's going to lose that top contender matchup or whatever it is. I just don't think that she has enough time to really put it over the top.
To give Miesha Tate some props, I would love her in an actual gatekeeping role. Like, if she literally was just kind of like, okay, I'm not going to be delusional. I'm going to know where I really stand, and let's get these fights in. And hopefully some of them will be some just fun fights. I don't know what even constitutes a money fight in any of the women's divisions, let alone one where half of it is Miesha Tate. But I think that would be cool, but I just don't trust that she's not going to try and talk herself into fights that she doesn't deserve, given that's what she was just doing. So once I get the sense that somebody's like kind of like sticking around who's supposed to be playing that gatekeeper role is doing that sort of stuff, I get unenthused. But
yeah,
that wraps up the main card of UFC on ABC3. I thought it was a pretty good offering for the UFC. It was an entertaining card, despite the unfortunate way that
Ricky Simone looked dope.
Like I said, I didn't watch. I didn't really get a chance to see the prelim fights. I woke up late for some of them, and then I had some other stuff to do, so I didn't really get to start watching till more Murphy and Tate. But if you have any thoughts or anything you wanted to share about those fights,
it just sucked for Jack Shore because he was undefeated and he's such a good fighter, a European fighter, and he loses. Like, they're literally fighting in London this week coming up, and they probably could have gave him someone other than Simone to fight. Where, man, that guy looks great. I think he's on his way up, but it just sucked for Jack Shore. Is like the European showcase is up next week, and then he lost in fucking Long Island. He lost his unblemished record in Long Island at like noon Eastern on the undercard. That's kind of like, damn, that's like a tough way to go.
Yeah, that was a fucking mean test that they put in front of him and Ricky Simone. Let me pull up Jack Shore's record to see how busy he's been staying too, because I know he fought earlier this year. So he fought Timur Valiev back in March. So 4 months later, it's a relatively quick turnaround. And that was a decision fight too. So he went the distance there. So yeah, to fight Ricky Simone, that quick of a turnaround, like you said, when he potentially could have been showcase fight next week for the London card, especially now that Till dropped out. But I mean, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We will get to that. So yeah, but 16-1 he falls to, still a hot prospect. Any potential like future matchups for him that you would like, something for him to build off of this?
No, nothing other than I just thought Ricky Simone. He's surprised me in the few fights. He's one of those guys where you're not looking out for him in any fights, but when I watched him, you sit down and because especially like you said with MMA, it kind of just worked out that way. You woke up a little later, you had some stuff to do. He was on the prelim, so this time I had time to sit down and watch the fight, and so, it feels like the last few times he's fought, that's been the case where like it just right place, right time, and I'm watching that fight, and he's looked good every single time. I'm like, man, this guy looks like he's got something. So something to watch out for.
Yeah, Ricky Simone's on a pretty impressive 5-fight win streak right now.
Yeah.
Bantamweight, I mean, there's not too many dudes who are rolling up 5-fight win streaks in bantamweight. He's ranked number 11, so right on the cusp to break into that top 10 with wins over Jack Shore, Rafael Assunção, Brian Kelleher.
Assunção was evil. Have you seen that knockout?
I don't remember it.
Rafael Assunção. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've seen anytime somebody's separated Rafael Assunção from his senses, but I don't.
Yeah, yeah, that shit was evil looking, dude. I was like, dang, bro, that man that's somebody's son.
And he's been busy too. He had 3 fights in 2021.
Eye test, dude. Ricky Simone's an eye test guy.
It's the eye test.
The fight plug eye test. The fight plug eye test.
We gotta.
He's past mine.
We have to do plan this out a little bit and do like a little bit of a Fight Plug podcast award ceremony for the end of the year, and we got to make these little placards for every fighter that we've deemed that they've passed the eye test, and actually award them to the fighters like on Instagram. It's like, hey, fucking, what's up? Hey, Ricky Simone.
Yeah, I guarantee. Ricky Simone, you want to jump on here? Or what's going on?
You passed the eye test. Here's this graphic. Here's our Fight Plug Pod NFT for you for passing the eye test.
I think that particular podcast or that award ceremony would just be owned by dudes from the Caucasus Mountains and like Shavkat would like clean up pretty well at that award ceremony, dude.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we need a lot of lather to wash those balls.
If he gets down, I will get him at least. I can throw like $90 at Men's Warehouse, and like I'll ship that over to you, dude. Just make sure you get it back in time, and then just put him on the link, dude. That would be crazy. Like, cause you send me a link to like join the meeting, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it wouldn't be because like some of these fighters, if you go on their like IG or Twitter, or some of them have websites, and then they have links, and then they're like DM for business inquiries, or email for business inquiries. If you just sent these links, like just like spam sent it, and then see who like responded, and just be like someone clicked it out of nowhere, and they're like you click it, and then you just see like fucking Tony Ferguson in some weird ass situation, like what the hell is it? But it would be interesting to see if you sent that link across, like, I don't know. I'm sure we could, if we dug hard enough, and there's so many MMA fighters in different promotions, and like you found their DMs, or you just sent them the link of like this, like the same link you sent me, and if anyone would join at all, or if that's just like a stupid thing to say, but that'd be funny to see.
Yeah, we should definitely start spamming a bunch of fighters. And
yeah, because Joanna's reposted your stuff and like commented back at you, like, that's not, who knows, man.
It's because she hasn't realized I'm a stalker yet.
Yeah.
Can you
this is gonna be
scooch over a little to your left a little bit. All right, much better.
So this is the beginning of like the true crime, like, little did Brandon know that Kenny had already put aside a bundle of a mask. Like, they're just like going over like all the closet over your shoulder. How creepy is it that they're talking about it, and like the closet over your shoulder?
He had been collecting trophies.
Yeah. He had just got back from Ace Hardware with the very tub that he was going to put her body.
Fuck.
It's like, oh, crazy.
Jeez. God damn. No. Not going to be putting anybody in fucking sulfuric acid anytime soon. Let me close this window. All right. Okay. I don't remember what we were talking about that got us into that, but it's time to move on. The UFC Fight Night.
No, we're talking about like the Academy Awards, like the Fight Club Night of Stars.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it would just be something like this. Where we go through all of the categories and talk about who our nominations were and who we give.
So it would be like CCP Red Scare Evil Award. Who does that go to? You know what I mean? There's a few fighters. For all eye test, like fighter eye test. What would it be? What would the next one be? Something that had to do with Joanna Jacek.
Best Joanna Jacek retirement of the year.
It's
like something only she can win.
Goes to Joanna. Let's see. We would have to parse it out, but
we would definitely give our fight of the year, our fighter of the year, our card of the year. Stuff like that. I mean, the card of the year, who do we even award that to? You know what I mean?
Best steroid cycle, like whose steroid cycles helped them out the most.
Most deflated fighter of the year, someone who's clearly off the juice.
Yeah.
Some of those awards, I don't really want to tag the fighters and reward them to on Instagram.
Yeah.
But some of them will be like, oh, this is cool. This fucking random podcast
Dillashaw,
gave me an award.
How's it going? We want to thank TJ Dillashaw for coming on.
Hell yeah. Okay. UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Aspinall. This is surprisingly a fight night. As I've been hearing about this card, for some reason I thought it was a pay-per-view, but I didn't realize that. I guess I just kept assuming that Blaydes and Aspinall was a co-main event, and that we hadn't got
worth a co-main event in that. Blaydes and Aspinall are worth. I mean, it's definitely worth this card as being the main event, but that's UFC worthy. I mean, to me, that's a UFC event, numbered event worthy fight right there.
I think so too. I don't know if they're too worried about it either in either case because they have Paddy Pimblett on this card, and I'm thinking they're really fucking like putting all of their eggs in his basket tonight. Yeah. And he's got a pretty good test. We're not going to get to him yet, though. He's the fucking the showcase. The showcase fight of the night. Let's start at the top of the card, though. Curtis Blaydes versus Tommy Aspinall. Curtis Blaydes, he's been around the block a little bit. He's come up short in some of his biggest challenges, most notably to Francis Ngannou and the Black Beast. He's been put out fucking cold. Some scary knockouts. I'm talking. I still remember like the way he was breathing when he got knocked out by Derek Lewis.
The deep chest heaving, huh?
Yeah, just deep.
Always,
and poor guy, he's got a speech impediment, so he has like a legit stutter.
You always bring
that he's had all his life.
The dude's a fighter, man. Who cares?
I know. I just
every time we talk about Curtis Blaydes.
No,
like, Curtis Blaydes wrestling looks pretty like, man. He's like elite level wrestler for like the size he is. And that whole speech impediment thing. Like, what the hell?
But his S's though, the way he's no. No, I'm just saying I do bring it up every time. I don't feel sorry for him because he has a speech impediment. It's fucked up. It's fucked up how people were attributing it to him getting knocked out by Derek Lewis. It's like to have to explain like, no, I actually stuttered all my life. It wasn't because this guy showed me the inside of my own skull.
I didn't just develop this like a couple minutes ago. You didn't see.
Yeah, no, dog. I've been dealing with this for sure.
Yeah. You're like that one. What's that meme? I think you sent it to me, or I sent it to you. Where it's like, or there's a few memes where it's like the child right before they say the most disrespectful thing to the person that has a disability in the line in front of them at Costco or like whatever, or like kids with like a child, and I know because my kids are younger now that they're older, but like my toddler, if he sees someone with like a disability, like they're just like, what? Like kind of throws them off. So that's like you, dude. Every time you talk about Curtis Blaydes, it's like he has a disability. You can't.
You're right. It's so fucked up. Yeah. I'm making it about. I didn't mean to make the whole segment about his speech, and you did this actually. No, I'm blaming you.
I'm a dick. I'm being a dick. But it's just like it makes me laugh, dude, because it's like. I'm sure for him, he's just like in the gym all day long, fucking busting ass, and like that's the first thing we talk about. We're like,
exactly,
man, his wrestling, because his wrestling for a man his size, that is very scary. Because that like there's no one in the UFC, even Ngannou. I mean, sans Ngannou or Derek Lewis, who have that one wild thing that like literally like less than 0.000% of the world can even come close to getting like that. 99% of the people on the planet, if Curtis Blaydes wants to put you on the ground, he can. Yeah. And that's like NFL players, that's NBA, any type of athlete. If Curtis Blaydes wants to hold you down, you're not getting up. And he's his wrestling is strong as fuck. So, you know, I'm not just gonna focus on his faults. The things he can't. I'm sure he would love to say Mississippi and it just come out clean, but, you know, he can't. So, I mean, I don't know why you're focusing on this.
I was looking at how many people stutter because you said he was like in the 0.001%. I want to see.
No, I mean, see, you're even.
I know.
You would have to. I mean, even then, dude, we're talking about it, and they're like 0.01% are people who stutter, and I'm like, no, dude. Take it easy, dog.
Oh man, no. What was I gonna say about Curtis Blaydes though? It was something that I was gonna agree with you or make a point, but I lost my train of thoughts because we can't keep clowning on him because I can't stop doing the John Anik thing, like where I'm bringing up like the worst part of his life or this fucking child custody issues or something like that. So I will stop. To your point, yes, Curtis Blaydes. No one else right now in the heavyweight division presents the kind of wrestling threat that he does. We could talk about John Jones, but he's not officially a heavyweight yet. He hasn't fought in the division. Hopefully soon. We could talk about who's the fucking Russian cat? The Moldovan bear. He has really impressive.
Yeah, dude.
He has really impressive wrestling.
Yeah, dude. I remember that guy is. It is striking. It feels like you can smell the TV in that fight. Dude, put that. What's the homie's name? Like your living room just gets musky as hell with that man. We've seen him a few times.
Alexander Romanov, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. That shit.
He fights like he smells.
He looks like he just like could just knows his way around a Turkish bath, dude.
Oh yeah.
Like that guy just knows his way around, like just like smashing the herbs on his shoulders and shit. Like the guy can like if you go somewhere and like the rocks, the steaming rocks kind of like lose heat, like he'd be like, oh, just do this. Mm-hmm. Like he looks like one of those guys. Oh yeah, that guy's amazing. But
yeah, and that
would be interesting to see him. And he's fucking. I stand corrected, because if there was one, that guy is probably the one guy who, like, outside of Curtis Blaydes, I would not want to see, like, oh shit, I need to stay off the ground.
Yeah,
with this guy ahead of me.
Yeah,
that guy's crazy.
Absolutely. And yet still then, like, he's super dangerous on the ground, but in terms of his wrestling acumen to get it there, still nothing like Curtis Blaydes. Both guys you never want to end up on the bottom end of. But Alexander Romanov is still just going to like kind of clinch up with you and it's drag you down there, and it's a big man type of takedown. But like you said, Curtis Blaydes.
It looks like he's folding a chair when he takes someone down. It looks like he's like
he's like shutting
and he's like shutting a suitcase and putting it on the ground. You know what I mean? Like he's full. It's like, dang, dude.
He's packing luggage when he takes a guy down, man.
Yeah, because Curtis Blaydes, it'll look beautiful. He'll kind of like switch levels on you. He'll be jabbing, crossing, and then he just goes to the waist, cinches you up, puts you up against the cage, and then pulls you down and puts you in a good position, and it looks great.
And
Moldovan Bear,
he'll spear you.
And the Moldovan Bear is like, here, now, there you go.
Yeah,
like that kind of deal.
Let's introduce your ankles to your forehead and just fold you up.
Yeah, yes, dude, exactly. Because like with Curtis Blaydes too, it's like he's doing an iteration of what you've been training for, whether you're a wrestler or it's first day of cardio MMA class, where it's like takedown defense, split your legs, back up, kind of like you kind of know more or less how to get out of that. Whereas like you can't train for like a slaughter, murder, fucking killer just trying to pull your head down and snap your spine. Like there's no book on how to get out of that.
Yeah. The defense for that is just assume you're going to die and use that fear.
Yeah. Use that fear and get away. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, maybe we're making up for something, but I wasn't expecting that we would be ball washing Curtis Blaydes this much. Probably making up for the fact
I think if you go back, I think you'd be surprised, because we always talk about Aspinal and Curtis Blaydes. Like whenever we talk, because we've talked about Ngannou, we've talked about Cyril Gane and Ngannou, we always talk about Stipe, we always talk about John Jones. So we're always kind of like talking about the heavyweight division. Yeah. We talked about Tai Tuivasa. So, and then we always go, well, Curtis Blaydes is right there. We always do. And so he's someone, because you wouldn't have to bring up his speech impediment if we weren't always talking about him. So like how I know we talk about him a lot is because you're always talking about him not being able to,
enunciate.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I mean, these two guys would probably be fighting for the title right now if Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane weren't around. Like they were literally
in another life or in another like multiverse, like they would be the top two guys. Yeah. Especially Aspinall. All first team all eye test Tom Aspinall. That guy's fucking amazing.
Yeah. I want to ask you right off the bat, and maybe this will be a good way for you to segue into what you think Tom Aspinall's strengths or weaknesses are, how they play up in this matchup. But what's your pick in this fight between?
As much as I would love to see Curtis Blaydes, really do it for the disabled community and kind of put them on his back. I think uh, I think Aspinall wins it, and I think the MMA is trying to like put it together to where he kind of catches Blaydes like overextended in a takedown or like in a grab, and then Mr. Aspinall putting him in some type of submission, whether that's like a more one of the more exotic Brazilian jiu-jitsu type things where he can kind of showcase that, because like I think there aren't too many Patty's on there, but they're not really known for the Brazilian jiu-jitsu on that side of the pond, so it'll probably be more or less you can see how the UFC put this matchup together for him to showcase that. More so than it would be a striking thing.
Interesting take that ground game might potentially provide an avenue for Tommy Aspinall to show us a little bit more of that submission prowess. Tommy Aspinall has 4 submission wins to his name out of 12 fights, 8 by knockout, 4 by submission.
That's a lot for a heavyweight too.
It's pretty, it's respectable.
12 fights.
Yeah. Actually, in 14 fights, he has 2 losses.
14 fights, sorry.
He's 12-2. My bad.
Or 12 wins. 12 of his wins.
12 wins. Yeah. Curtis Blaydes only has no losses via submission. So what you're predicting here is a bit of an upset. I don't know. I didn't check to see what the lines were for this fight, but
was Francis Ngannou was Francis Ngannou gonna choke or knee bomb or whatever?
Yeah, no, good point. If it's gonna happen, this is definitely the fight that it's going to happen in, unless like a fucking Fabricio Verdum was still around or something like that.
Oh man!
But I think that means, and I would have to look it up. I'll probably use whatever website you use to place bets. I would assume that would mean that there's a pretty healthy
until they give us money. I'm not going to say anybody's name, and no one's beating down our door to like exploit people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I want to know. What about me?
Oh, you want to know?
For the sake of conversation, I know, like maybe our dozens of people, they're not going to fucking live or die by a Curtis Blaydes, Tommy Aspinall bet. But like, what kind of prop line would you need to see on Tom Aspinall by submission to lay some money down?
I would have to be getting like 6-1 type odds or 7-1 type odds to do it, just because it would make it worth. Because like you said, it would have to be something that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Where Curtis Blaydes gets submitted, and not only that, Curtis Blaydes gets submitted by a guy who I'm sure a huge chunk of his game plan's going, don't get submitted. You know what I'm saying? So
6-1 odds, that would be like plus 600 for Tom Aspinall by submission.
Like
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I definitely wouldn't do it by I wouldn't put a round on it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say like Tom Aspinall by submission plus 3.5 rounds.
Okay.
That would be a prop bet I would take. Like he gets like a late submission where kind of where it's like they've kind of gone back and forth a little bit. They're both a little bit gassed.
Right.
Curtis Blaydes leaves the neck out a little too far on the takedown attempt, and they kind of like Blaydes gets put in a weird position, and then Aspinall just kind of like jumps on it,
Mm-hmm. Possibly like Curtis Blaydes, like burning himself out or gassing himself out by like drilling elbows into Tommy Aspinall's skull, and just getting tired and then like rolling over and like falling into an arm triangle or something.
Sure, maybe something like that.
I think that sounds accurate, given that like what we just looked up, that he's never been lost by submission. I would say plus 500, plus 600 would be sounds accurate to me for that line, for that prop bet. It's a tough fight for me to pick. I like Tom Aspinall.
It's really hard. I just like Tom Aspinall a lot. As much as I love Curtis Blaydes, and I just like have a special place in my heart for people that are that have that have issues in life that you so cleverly point out every time.
Mm-hmm.
That man, Tom Aspinall looks, but I feel like he's kind of had the UFC's good graces as far as like making matches like Curtis Blaydes for him, whereas like he kind of Curtis Blaydes to the fucking thorn bushes, dude, to get to this point where
Yes.
Aspinall's kind of taken the road a little more traveled, or the they're like both coming to the same place, and I feel like Curtis Blaydes has gone through like the fucking woods, dude, like the
Mm-hmm.
evil ass woods to get to here, and Aspinall's kind of taken the nice route to here. Doesn't mean that they're both not. Doesn't change the talent or whatever it is, but it just feels like Mr. Aspinall's had a little bit of an easier road to where they to this particular fight.
I definitely agree when you compare their records of who they fought in the UFC, like Aspinall's most recent wins to Alexander Volkov, Sergey Spivak, Andrei Arlovsky. None of them are bad guys. Andrei Arlovsky is a guy who, I mean, it's easy to look at his record now. He's at like 30-19, or that's what he was at when Tom Aspinall beat him. I'm not sure. He's 34-20 now. That doesn't sound like a phenomenal record, and it's not, but Andrei Arlovsky is one of the few guys who's actually learning to fight like a veteran. He's had like multiple eras of the way he fights, and now like the Andrei Arlovsky of today fights completely different, like from the Andrei Arlovsky when we were coming up. But even then, he's not a guy who's going to offer really a very, very perfect stepping stone for a guy like Tommy Aspinall, who's a dynamo. Who throws he is good everywhere. He's not a specialist anywhere.
I feel like this is like a Walmart version of like our breakdown for Cyril Gane versus Ngannou, where it's like, man, Cyril Gane he just looks amazing, but then when he got to that point, he just wasn't quite there. And he could get there. I think Cyril Gane could definitely get there. I think Gane and Aspinall are the guys at the kind of at the end of this like heavyweight rainbow where we have to see what happens with Jones and Stipe and Ngannou. But at the end of the light, at the end of that tunnel is Gane and Aspinall. Is Aspinall there yet? And I think this is a good kind of like barometer. Like he's going up against a fucking legitimate, like not only is he trending upwards, Curtis Blaydes is trending upwards, but he has the history behind him too, a track record that he belongs like in the top levels of that division.
And he's definitely confident. He speaks the part.
Oh yeah.
He's said as much. He says he's like.
You just said he does. Oh, you mean Aspinall?
Aspinall.
Curtis Blaydes.
Aspinall.
I was gonna say you. Absolutely. No. You're all. He speaks very well. I thought you. See, now I'm all hung up on it.
No. Tom Aspinall in his interview says he's. I mean, at first he was a bit more humble, and there was a little bit of time when he was saying like, "No, I don't want to fight any ranked guys, not until I'm getting paid better," which I thought was smart. But since then, he's come out like on the MMA Hour and stuff, and he's flat out said like, "Okay, listen, because I've been asked a million times, I'm breaking, and I'm just going to tell everybody I do think I'm the best heavyweight in the world. Like I literally think it's not a matter of if, but when I get the title. I still have things up my sleeve that no one's ever seen. So like guys coming in to fight me right now, they think they know what I'm all about, and there's still shit that I'm going to show them. And I think that's smart on his part to even be thinking like that, because it's true. There's just not a lot of tape on a guy like Tommy Aspinall yet. So I think like he has all the potential in the world, but it's hard for me because I just haven't seen it. It's hard for me to picture or to imagine how he's going to do if he ends up under Curtis Blaydes, and if he's going to be able to get up, because what does a heavyweight scramble even look like? I think like you don't see heavyweight scrambles. Like the fight, like they just start leaning over and then they fall over and one guy lands in dominant position.
Stipe and Overeem kind of did. You saw that like
Shane Carwin and Brock Lesnar had a very impressive heavyweight scramble for like 6 seconds back in the day.
And some of the like lighter weight guys, it's all scrambles. Some of those like fights, they end up like that's where the meat and bones of the fight is.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, heavyweights, it's like a treat. It's a very rare treat.
Yeah. And Curtis Blaydes is a guy who doesn't hesitate to shoot. Like how many times did he shoot against Alexander Volkov? I want to say he shot like in the 20s, like 22 times, 22 shots. I don't remember how many he was successful on, but that's grueling. And so even if Tom Aspinall shows that he's got the gumption to get back up from under Curtis Blaydes and turn it into a scramble, how many times can he do that is what's going to hold me up. I think or how many times is he going to or how much energy is he going to have to be able to keep doing that, because
Good point, man.
Curtis Blaydes' gas tank passes the eye test. I mean,
Oh,
if you're gassed, you're
Yeah.
not making it to 22, 23 takedown attempts. You're stopping well clear of that. Like,
Yeah.
so I think my official pick is going to be Curtis Blaydes by decision.
Yeah. I can't say that I disagree with you. I think just for argument's sake, I can definitely see that. And it sucks that when you said this, I was like, yes, he's right. Like, and like here I am. But I think we get like like I think we get a like a unexpected. I'll say an unexpected. Well, we were saying like prop bet, like he's gonna get a submission. I think he'll get a submission like around the third round, like at the end of the third round. Aspinall will get something.
Aspinall by submission.
By the submission, yeah. I'll take that.
Aspinall by submission,
and Curtis Blaydes is gonna knock him out in the like 25th second of his first round.
Well, you know what? That's also Tom Aspinall's never been knocked out. He only has one loss by submission, and then one DQ, which I'm not sure what the circumstances were for the disqualification. Oh, an illegal 12-6 elbow, dude. All the top dogs have a disqualification for a 12-6 elbow.
There it is, dude.
I might change my pick because that is
just the company he's keeping right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty exciting to learn. Now I really want to see him fight John Jones, but he's never been finished. So on the other end of the spectrum, that would be an impressive feather in Curtis Blaydes' hat to potentially drive hellish elbows down and put Tommy Aspinall away for the first time. Well, not put him away for the first time in his career, but finish him via TKO or KO for the first time in his career. And I could see it because the power's there. He just learned that he has no. Well, he did put who's that guy who he knocked out recently? The cop. He has a brother. Oh, just look at his record. I have it up right here. Blanking on his name. Chris Daukaus. He dropped Daukaus with a strike that was so hard that like he probably could have made it a walkaway KO, but he went down and finished it with ground and pound and elbows.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got power on the hands too, and that's one thing that I'm not 100% convinced that Tom Aspinall has. I think he's kind of the guy who has to lay it on you.
Yeah, he has good. He'd have to put together like where Blaydes just kind of isn't fighting back and just kind of like they have to get in the way. He's not going to just knock Curtis Blaydes' dome off and walk away kind of deal.
I think he's going to have to pour it on until the referee pulls him off. Because the only other guys that we've
seen... So he pulls the Anderson Silva Forrest Griffin fucking backing up jab and knocks him out. Watch out, man.
Just a little paw.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Really intriguing matchup. Excited to see where that's going to go. And the winner of that fight is likely, hopefully, going to be in the conversation to fight. Honestly, I don't even know what the fuck is happening from here on out because we're talking about Jones versus DC. Francis Ngannou is still in limbo. So I'll retract what I said. Who knows who they're going to fight after this, but hopefully there will be a belt on the line because that will at least mean that we're moving along. That things have been happening in the heavyweight division, so we can finally see that this heavyweight title defended or go into the hands of somebody new who's going to be active.
I think it's these two guys and Tuivasa on the outside. And if Tuivasa can beat Cyril Gane, I think he kind of puts himself in position. But I think they really want Gane Aspinall. If like I had to bet money on what they're wanting, I think they just want to get John and Stevie out of the way. And the two European guys, they're thinking that's going to be like a rivalry towards the end. If I had to like kind of like put my money on any type of storyline that they're looking to build.
Tai Tuivasa can't beat Cyril Gane. Just a little insider trading info. It's impossible. Can't happen. No way, no how. Let's look at the co-main event of this UFC London card. Jack Hermansson faces the late replacement Chris Curtis. And this comes off the heels of Darren Till having to pull out due to injury.
Sadly, it's a better fight than Till and Hermansson. It's Chris Curtis and Hermansson is a better fight.
I think it actually is. Chris Curtis has way more upward momentum right now, and he's on a crazy win streak. Let me count it: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fight win streak. Going up against Jack Hermanson, who is not quite as reeling, but he has. Let me pull it up. It's loading. Jack Hermanson is on a no fight win streak. He's on a 2 fight. He's on a 2 fight skid. His last win coming over Edmund Shabazian back in 2021. And if I'm not mistaken, oh no, never mind. I have to fucking change my topology settings because it's showing. Sometimes it'll show me wrestling matches and grappling matches.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the fuck?
Shabazian would have been a good win. But it doesn't seem like it's as now when this late into 2022, it doesn't seem as good of a win as it was.
Hasn't it?
When he won.
Yeah, hasn't aged well. Edmund Shabazian since then has seemingly fallen off the face of the earth. But yeah, I was freaking out. I was like, when did Jack Hermanson fight Khamzat Chimaev? But it was a fucking wrestling match, which I hate that topology does that. Like, I don't need to see grappling match results or wrestling match results in my. When I'm looking for the fight records. Sambo. Exactly. But yeah, he's most recently coming off of a loss to Sean Strickland, a split decision loss. So at least one judge thought that fight should have gone to
that wasn't the Jack most Hermanson. We broke that fight. That was one of our early like pods I think we did, right? That would have been. I distinctly remember talking about Sean Strickland and his like playing it out with like porn stars on Twitter.
You know what?
Deal at that time.
We did talk about that, but I don't know if it was in relation to this fight because that fight happened in February of this year, and we were already podcasting by then. But it was on a fight. Yeah. It was on a fight night, and we were only covering pay-per-views at the time, so I'm not sure how that came up. But we did talk about that on the air about Sean Strickland's antics on Twitter and shit like that. Do you have a pick for this fight?
We did talk about. I'm gonna take Chris Curtis.
I don't really know a lot about Chris Curtis, but I was more impressed by him in his recent fight with Rodolfo Vieira. So I would probably lean towards Chris Curtis. Also, Jack Hermansson's never struck me as a guy who's dangerous. He's more struck me as a guy who's controlling.
I think if I had to guess and like be conspiratorial, I feel like they're kind of setting him up for Till to win and kind of like, like make it like just they you can tell, you said it. It's the WWE with real fights.
Yeah.
And I feel like they were kind of setting it up for him to kind of showcase himself. I kind of like knock the stink off that he's had on him. And, I think that they kind of could read the tea leaves on where Manson was in his career and set it up. And I think you're going the opposite direction with a guy like Curtis coming in, who's fucking like his mentality is way different than what Darren Till's was. And I think he was the best available guy who was down to fight at that time. And that really sucks for Jack Hermansson, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, Jack Hermansson at least can, he's been, no, because Chris Curtis is fresh still. He just fought. So, because I was going to say, well, at least Jack Hermansson's been training for a fight, and, Chris Curtis is coming in late, but Chris Curtis is still got to be relatively fresh. And a guy like Rodolfo Vieira is not really going to he didn't put the screws to him damage-wise either. So,
it wasn't a war.
Yeah, and generally in this case, I'd be looking at Jack Hermansson to be like the fresher fighter, to not have recently come out of a fight. But yeah, I think like you mentioned, it was kind of something that they were probably building towards, hopefully being a win for Darren Till. And of the top 10 at middleweight, Sean Strickland's a pretty good pick because, like I said, he just doesn't really strike me as a dangerous fighter. He strikes me as a difficult fighter, as a fighter who's going to make it tough for you.
That's a good. I've never heard. I'm sure it has been put that way over the years, but not a dangerous fighter, but a difficult fighter. That's a good way to kind of character. There's a lot of fighters like that.
Yeah.
I've never heard it characterized that way.
Yeah, you can have a open coffin after you fight Jack Hermanson. He's not really going to put it on you like that. At least from what I noticed. I haven't followed Jack Hermanson's career super closely, but it's middleweight, so I'm never going to. So yeah, I agree with you. I'll go Chris Curtis, and then we can move on to the showcase fight of the night. What, as far as UFC execs are concerned, is probably going to be like the unofficial main event of the evening.
Yeah,
Paddy the Baddy Pimlet. I was gonna sing the fucking song. How does it go? Oh, Paddy the Baddy. It's basically the Seven Nation Army theme.
There's so many iterations of that song in that culture. Like every soccer team has like some song that like uses that bass line.
They're all reworked versions of different songs, like the Tommy Aspinall one. Yeah. It's Tommy Aspinall. Dun, 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 dun.
I've never even heard that one, man.
You'll hear it this Saturday because they're going to be fucking screaming that shit at the top of their lungs, probably before he makes the walk. Paddy the Baddy Pimlet.
Oh yeah, no, okay, now I know. Yeah, okay, I know.
Faces his stiffest test so far in the UFC, and that is against the 10-1 Jordan Levitt, the Monkey King. So there's a whole lot of folks who only know Jordan Levitt for his twerking, and I don't really blame them. He does a
damn good job of it.
He does, yeah. He doesn't look like it's his first time twerking in the cage. And there's certainly a lot of more casual fans who are potentially concerned that he will be twerking over a lifeless heap of humanity in Paddy Pimlet. No, Jordan Levitt's not the kind of guy who's going to threaten any kind of a knockout. Or another case of a guy who's difficult but not necessarily dangerous. Jordan Levitt presents much more of a grappling threat than anything else. Doesn't really have the greatest wrestling either, so I still feel like this is definitely a stepping stone type of fight for Paddy Pimlet, but already a little bit stiffer of a test than I was expecting for them to give him in his hometown too, because like for as long as
it threw you for a loop, because it was like I didn't know that fight was, but it is a fight that you could put together, and it actually would be hard. That kind of like had a lot of like ingredients to how that fight, or this fight has a lot of ingredients to it, you know what I mean, like a lot of different things that you didn't realize were like, you know, when you eat something and you're like, oh shit, that had fucking turmeric in there, or you know what I mean? Like where you just didn't quite know what it was that made it spicy.
You don't know what turmeric tastes like.
Oh dude, I eat turmeric every day, dude.
I know you don't. Fucking liar.
Dude, you want me to go get it? I know exactly where it's at. It's right next to the chili powder. I use it in my chicken. How dare you, bro?
Nah, dude,
red pepper flakes, turmeric, cumin,
you learned what turmeric was like a week ago, and you're showing up.
No, jeez, dude.
No,
how dare you?
I'm just kidding. I'm projecting, because if I had to guess right now, I probably wouldn't be able to identify turmeric like in a blind taste test. That's off the top of my head. I've certainly had shit with turmeric in it, but that's always when I think about. It's like I still don't.
Is it?
Yellow.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. I fucking know everything about turmeric, dog.
No, it's not. It's like a burnt orange. Brown.
Yeah. Well, the turmeric I get is yellow. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I get the Iranian turmeric.
So, Paddy the Baddy Pimlet versus Jordan Levitt. I haven't asked you officially. How do you see this fight going?
I think Paddy wins. It would be as super cool as it would be to see Pimlet lose and have him get twerked on, and like, because the meme is so funny. It was like point of view, like you just lost to Jordan Levitt, and it's like doing like the craziest looking splits,
like the full on
touching him,
Valerie Loretta like fucking hip gyrations,
and then just like trailing his what is that called, the happy trail, or what, like the hair down his chest, and he's just like lame. Like you don't want to feel that way watching the fight, but he could definitely win. I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be as a lot of people are like hoping Levitt wins. I think just because for the lulz or whatever, and wanting to see a burn. But
yeah, I think that's what it is mostly too. Because I mean, we shouldn't hate on Paddy Pimblett, like for especially guys like us who were, doing our own little ragtag podcast now and stuff. Guys like Paddy Pimblett coming through just mean clicks. It just means more potential engagement. But I feel like this is an interesting I'm picking Paddy too. I am rooting for Jordan Levitt because I do like to see the world burn, and it would be funny to see like this little golden boy like prospect, and not necessarily even like competitive prospect, just like potential money making prospect, just get twerked on. I like to see the UFC's plans go in flames, but it's nothing really against Paddy personally. I think I'm not too worried that it would go that way for this fight though, because I think this is an instance where it's like they're gonna make Pimblett use his wrestling in reverse, to kind of make him be a wrestle boxer in this instance, because most of the time he's gonna want to like clinch up with the guy and get the fight to the ground where he's gonna do his work. But in this case, I mean, we saw in his debut fight in the UFC that he's more than willing to just go toe for toe and throw haymakers and pray, just bite down on the mouthpiece and hopes that he's able to get it done. And if Jordan Levitt does present that kind of a threat on the ground, which by all means he does seem like he does, so I think Paddy's going to use that wrestling to keep it standing in this instance, and it might be a closer fight than we're expecting, because I think that they're a lot more evenly matched on the ground. If it's just grappling,
I don't think it's going to be as exciting as Paddy's fights normally are, and it's mostly because he's taking such an insane amount of damage and then kind of just walking through some shots. I don't think he's gonna have to prove that or use that skill set this weekend.
Yeah. So decision, is that what you're guessing, or do you think we see a finisher? Decision?
No, I think a split decision victory for him.
Split decision. Okay. It's pretty bold for a guy who doesn't know what turmeric tastes like. I agree. No, I agree. I'm going to go decision on this one. Really kind of hard to picture how the fight's going to end for either guy. But I will go Paddy Pimblett. I'll go unanimous decision. I don't want to discount the potential for some home cooking, given that they're going to be fighting in London. Some other fights, some standout fights on the card. We have Nikita Krylov versus Alexander Gustafsson. Where has Alexander Gustafsson been? Do you know off the top of your head when's the last time he fought? I'm pulling it up right now, so I'll be able to confirm it, but I don't know.
He fought. I don't know.
Oh, dang! I forgot he had his short stint at heavyweight back in 2020. Yeah. He fought Fabricio Verdum and lost via armbar in round one, right at exactly the halfway point at 2 minutes and 30 seconds of round one. He succumbed to an armbar. Before that, he fought once a year since 2016. Dang. Alexander Gustafsson had been so inactive. In 2016, he fought and beat Jan Blachowicz by decision.
And then John just kind of put it on him in a weird way, right? Didn't John beat him in a...
and that was in 2018. 2016, he had one fight against Jan Blachowicz. 2017, he had one fight against Glover Teixeira where he uppercutted him into oblivion.
Yeah.
2018, he had the fight with John Jones where he lost in round 3 to ground and pound. He was finished. 2019, he had one fight against Anthony Smith. 2019, he had 2 fights. Oh, no. Fucking Tapology. That was an exhibition grappling match. So no, he only
5 minutes later.
So anyways, I was running down Alexander Gustafsson's record and how inactive he's been for the past 5-6 years. Nikita Krylov, on the other hand, he's
fought a lot.
He's been much more active. He's fought, not a crazy amount more active, and definitely not very successful either. He's coming off of 2 losses to respectable competition. Paul Craig, who's also fighting on this card, and then of course
who only fights once a year too.
Yeah, and then Magomed Ankalaev, who is in the short list for guys who are potentially going to be holding the strap in this division within the next year.
No,
or 2.
Arnold Allen only fights. Sorry, I got the wrong Euro trash.
Wrong Euro trash. Dude. Oh well, I'll take a look at Paul Craig's now because I want to know if you didn't have to correct yourself. I feel like Paul Craig doesn't fight that often either.
It doesn't seem like he does. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the British guys fight as much as you think they do.
Paul Craig fought once in 2022 so far, but I mean he's about to fight again this weekend.
Yeah.
He fought once in 2021, twice in 2020. Anyway, why are we doing this? Nikita Krylov versus Alexander Gustafsson. I don't have much of a breakdown. I feel like this fight's going to play out on the feet. I'm going to go. I'm leaning Nikita Krylov, but I don't really know much of a reason why. It's just in my guts. I don't really trust.
You want Nikita Krylov in your guts? Take it easy, dude.
Dude,
how far are we into
rearranging any of these guts? Not from that traitor. I just don't really trust where Alexander Gustafsson is mentally at this point in his career, I think is what I was trying to say.
He's been training with Hamzat, right?
I think what I'd always been hearing was that he was a training partner of Hamzat, and he probably still is. I mean, I haven't seen it
like
pop
that
up
makes any difference.
But
Hamzat just fucking smashes his cheeks open every weekend, dude. What do you mean? Like just saw like that makes him fucking makes him gonna win because he trains with Hamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, Hamzat probably rearranges his guts.
Yeah,
I would say if he's been this long-standing training partner of Hamzat Chimaev, I would hope that the benefit that he would get from that would have already presented itself in his career. And I don't think it's going to change much at this point. Even if he had just like started training with him heavily within the last 2 years or something. But like I said, it's probably a lot closer to a pick'em. I'm just going to go with Nikita Krylov at this point because I think he probably recognizes the opportunity ahead of him. Alexander Gustafsson has managed to maintain a fair amount of notoriety to his name, despite the fact that he's not been active and has been losing a lot. Almost a little bit of that Darren Till factor, where somehow he just manages to stay beloved to the fans because he'll come out. I mean, for one,
he halfway gave John Jones
John
Jones bleed his own blood that one time.
Yeah, there's like a short like fraternity of guys who people think like should have beat John Jones but didn't, and he's part of that.
Weren't even close when you think about it. Weren't even close.
Yeah, so like him and Thiago Santos. Like Thiago Santos is going to get a lot of rope. He's going to get a lot of leeway from that fight with him, and same with Dominic Reyes. But just for the sake of moving on, and obviously I'm going to ask you for your pick right now too, but I'm going to go with Nikita Krylov by decision.
I'm taking Gus by stoppage.
Okay, cool. Molly McCann, Hannah Goldie.
You're wrong.
Huh?
I've known you long enough now to know like you're okay, cool. Yeah, you're wrong, but okay, let's do the next one.
I said it like that on purpose, but I don't actually believe that you're wrong or anything. I don't. It's not the fight that I feel strong enough about to really be like. So I was being cheeky just to be cheeky.
Okay.
But Hannah Goldie versus Molly McCann. We last saw Molly McCann get what is probably the WMMA knockout of all time. Like because there's some other ones that much higher levels that have happened. Obviously, we got Valentina Shevchenko decapitating Jessica Ai. Maybe only
one was crazy.
Maybe only half of that fight was like super high level.
Holly Holm, that was brutal. Holly Holm and Ronda.
That was another nice one. Of course, Amanda Nunes has some impressive knockouts under her belt too. She also did some mean things to Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
But the impact that spinning back elbow had on Luana Carolina is definitely going to keep Molly McCann in the consciousness of fans like around the world, even though she is ranked 21 at flyweight, so she's not in the discussion at all, and I'm not really forecasting her to be. But Hannah Goldie's an interesting matchup for her right now. Not one I would have been expecting from the UFC because Hannah Goldie is a handsome girl who is she's a total
presentable.
She's a total dime piece. She's a relatively exciting fighter, and I figured that the UFC would really be behind Hannah Goldie and try and work her into one of these like Paige Van Zandt type of like routes towards I wouldn't even say contendership, just being in the mix. But I think that it feels like a bad fight for Hannah Goldie. What do you think, man?
No, I mean, I don't expect a whole lot out of this fight. I'm not a huge fan of Molly McCann's for whatever reason.
Hmm.
I think like that like the last British like card, I I just didn't like it, and then I didn't like the fallout to where they're like, I was just trying to watch like the Padres game randomly, and like they're there, and it's like, why are they there? And then that was when like Patty was super fat. It's like no
Yeah.
one wants to see Molly McCann and Patty the Batty at a baseball game and dancing like idiots, and then they were like in the fucking then they were like in the crowd at every UFC event after. I feel like for like a long time after that, and you're just like, oh my god,
Very, very
yeah,
obnoxious are those
it
two.
was just obnoxious,
And
man.
and
And so
and they'll both celebrate like they won world championships too for
yeah,
knocking out Luana Carolina, who was fighting awfully in that fight. Like
yeah,
that was a fight that was tailor made for her to get knocked
for
the
that to
fuck out
happen,
because she wasn't
yeah,
threatening with much. Luana Carolina was making more faces at Molly McCann
right,
than mounting any meaningful offense.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Um.
good point, man. And it's just yeah, and it is a surprise of how they because again, like you said, WWE with like real fights, so they do kind of set up their female fighters based off of certain factors that are outside of skill based. So this is kind of a weird one, but uh, we'll see. We'll see
Mhm.
what happens. Weirder things happen in WMMA where it just for me, I couldn't really call it as well as you could. That's for sure.
Mhm. I don't know a whole lot about Hannah Goldie really either. I just don't really think I haven't seen anything from her in the fights that I have seen that make me think she's like a world beater. But I was kind
Yeah,
of assuming that they would kind of take that role with her and try and kind of protect an attractive fighter. I mean,
yeah,
why beat around the
call it
bush?
what it is.
They've done it
Yeah,
before, you know.
yeah.
So yeah, fun fight. I and if they want to go against the grain like that more often, fucking do it. I actually
Fuck
really
it.
I
Yeah,
would like that because I mean, I'm not, I can't speak for all fans, obviously, but I watch this mostly for the competition in the sense that, like, okay, we can establish who the best fighter is actually at this weight class.
yeah,
And I feel like it happens much more in WMMA where some girls will really get a shot
yeah.
for what they look
Exactly.
like. And it's like, why? Like, what do you get out of, like, as a guy, like, even as a casual fan, you're watching, like, what's
It
the
makes you
interest in,
miss Rachel Estovich. Like I miss her.
I don't miss her at all, dude. But, oh, did I lose you? Oh, you're still there. Your sound.
Yeah, no, yeah. I didn't want to call it out, but I couldn't hear you for like I don't know how long, like
Really?
12 seconds. There.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, but I remember you told me like if that happens, just smile and nod. I remember you told me that the last time. Like, I was just right there, like, because I didn't want to like you could have been riffing on like you're like giving your fucking Ric Flair moment on the mic right there, and I could have just been, what? What'd you say there? Like I didn't want to do that
yeah, talking about a turmeric was a fucking conspiracy. Um, uh,
Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
no, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about UFC favoring attractive female fighters or some shit like something about
Yeah.
that with Hannah Goldie. But um, we've been going for a while. We don't have to talk about Paul Craig. We'll go ahead and leave that one for our unofficial our Patreon episodes. Let's put a bow.
Yeah,
Let's put a
exactly.
bow on UFC Fight Night Blaydes versus Aspinall. One more thing that I want to talk about before I let you go. I know it's getting late, but some late
Yeah.
breaking news that they announced during the card this past weekend: Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev for the lightweight title has been booked for October 22nd in Abu Dhabi. Please give me your thoughts.
How does this affect the Nil Dariush? Like, who gets to fight him now?
That's the most hardcore answer ever. But what does this
Yeah,
mean for
like,
Maylin
wow.
Dariush?
What about Benny? No one's talking about it. Yeah, wow. Well, I like it because it just puts the Connor shit to bed. Like, that's not fucking happening, guys. Like, I didn't want it to happen, and I had that weird anxiety that, like, is kind of like that cut on your cheek where, like, it just bugs you and you keep brushing your tongue over it. And, like, is he going to get it? Will he just get a title shot because he's healthy? And I didn't think it would happen, and I'm glad it's not now. And I think it kind of puts it to bed of where like you can put Islam and Charles off of his list, and it kind of narrows down who Connor ends up fighting. And why were we even talking about it? More so just relief that he's not getting the title shot, and that this is the fight. If it wasn't going to be Charles and Volk, this is the one that you really do want to see. I think a lot of people are gonna. I think Islam opened up as the favorite, but I think Charles, like, I don't even think it's close. I think Charles fucking smokes him. I think that whole bullshit. I think he fucking smokes him. Like, not. I couldn't call it like whether it's a knockout or he just fucking grapples him to death. But I think he's going to win by such a wide margin to where it's gonna make Islam like cause for pause for Islam. I think he's walking into like, and he's not going to be. Not that it's. I just think. Charles is on this weird it ended up being the worst possible thing for everyone in that division that he missed weight that day. Whereas it may have had the opposite effect as why they fucked him so hard doing that, because they probably thought it was going to fuck with them and maybe take him out of the title shot and then put Islam in there where they want him there. Whereas I think it had the opposite effect of like razor sharpening this guy's fucking mind to where he's not going to just take the gap, because he goes in there and wins that fight and he makes weight and he retains his belt. Then, who knows where his mind's at. Now he's like, nah, dude, they fucked me. Like he's not only fighting Islam, but he in his mind is fighting the company too. And he's fighting like the doubters, and he's fighting like people who are actively working to like derail his career. So that's like, you have a laser focused guy like Charles who doesn't really need much motivation anyway. So you're going to get the best, and just praying for healthy camps on both sides.
Oh yes, and please,
that's
knocking on all wood all across the
yeah, that's the thing for me. That was the first thing I thought was like, man, this has to fucking happen. So just praying for that they're healthy and good health when it comes close, and it goes through. But I think Charles is gonna fucking smoke him. I think Islam will be the champ at some point, but I think they fucked up by trying to. They fucked over the wrong guy, I think.
That's an interesting take. And I got to say, I see that about him being extra fired up now, too, because coming out of that Justin Gaethje fight, I remember walking back into the backstage, like right after the fight, he was so fired up talking about the champion has a name. It's Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Where's my fucking belt? Like, he was much more upset about it than I thought he would be, because obviously when he's trying to make weight and everything, he's completely zapped of energy. He just looks confused on the scale. Like, what's going on? Yeah. I didn't make weight. You're taking my title?
He knows. Yeah.
At that point,
knows more than him about what happened. There's maybe 3 people that know what happened.
Yeah.
The guy that fucked Charles Oliveira over, Charles Oliveira, and then the person who signed off on taking it away from him. There's 3 guys who know. Yeah.
Who decided to be a fucking stickler about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 3 guys who know what happened, and I think Charles has always shown that he's not going to make it, because he's been humbled in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So you would like, what would Connor say if that should happen to him? You know what I mean? Like, it would kind of be like, of course you're going to say that, Connor. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like Charles, if he legit thought like, yeah, you know what, I actually wasn't on weight and it could have happened. He knew for damn sure like he was on weight. You don't get to be that much of a pro,
mm-hmm.
and to the level that he is at in a professional career, and as someone who's missed weight before, to like not to his reaction to that. I didn't have to see. I don't even have to speak Portuguese to know that like fucking some shit fucking popped off
mm-hmm.
in that room.
Yeah, the look on his face was genuine confusion. Like, hey man, I know what my body feels like when I put myself through this cut and I put in all of that work. So yeah, I definitely don't doubt that there was some fuckery surrounding that whole weight fiasco. But all things just in the end, he's still going to be fighting for his title. He'll be considered, if he does win it, like you're saying, like if he smokes if he smokes Islam Makhachev, excuse me, he will be a 2-time UFC lightweight champion. It kind of sucks that technically his title reign will be broken. He'll have gone on 1 3-fight title reign, and then counting them forward, like 3 more fights from now, we won't be able to say, oh, like he has. I mean, we'll be able to say he has 5 title defenses or whatever. But like, I mean, I'm being fucking semantic.
And it's an away game too. I mean, it's in Abu Dhabi. That's like backyard.
That's exactly what I was going to say next. Like in his entire championship run so far, he hasn't had the opportunity to defend his belt in Brazil. And by
that's in his head too, dude. Like, fuck you. Like, I'm the champ. You tried to fuck me over. You couldn't you couldn't groove me a fucking fastball in Rio de Janeiro, dude. Fuck you guys. So he's just like, fuck these people. I cannot wait. I'm gonna make Dana put that shit around my waist. You think Dana puts it? If he just smokes Charles Oliveira in front of a bunch of like sheiks and Saudi oil princes, and he just fucking smokes him, is Dana gonna be like, here you go, bro, there you go? I think Dana. I feel like.
I don't think Dana has anything against Charles Oliveira. I mean, I don't.
He's paid him a lot. He's paid him, and usually paying bonuses. Dana likes that.
And also, Dana, for the first time in a while, actually was at the fights this weekend for the UFC on ABC 3 card, and he did a post-fight press conference, and he was asked about the whole lightweight situation, by the way, and they were asking him about Charles versus Islam, and I don't remember exactly what the question was, but he pretty much said, I mean, guys, he's the champion. Let's be real. Yeah. So he pretty much said, like, yeah, he's not officially the champion, but this is our champion. Let's not fucking beat around the bush. So I think he respects him as a champion. Obviously, it wasn't Dana's call for that to go down the way it did. As far as I truly believe if Dana was the guy in charge of reading the scale, even if he would have got done, even if he was over, Dana's going to be like, 155 pounds next. You know what I mean? Another it was nice to see that they're playing ball with him too, because Dana said that even though he's not going into this fight with Islam as champion, that he will be giving Charles Oliveira his pay-per-view points. So that's doing a big favor for him, because I think that would be the biggest fuck over of Charles Oliveira, is to tell him, well, you're not champion this fight, so you're not getting points. Like, dude,
you want this? I'll throw you the bag of coins, the gold coins right there. Like, you want all miserly.
Do with if he does get that win like you're predicting, and no matter how dominant or close it is or whatever, if he just manages to walk away with a W over Islam Makhachev, I don't know if it's too early to ask this, but does that make Charles Oliveira does that make him the GOAT, the lightweight officially? No.
I think it puts him right there to where, like, if he beats Volkanovski, or if he comes back and completely cleans the division out, and that division where it's at, because he's going to have a chance with Sarukian and Gamrot, and the guy who I think, like, really could end up being, I think within the next 3 years, a top pound for pound guy is going to be coming out of that. I don't know why I said featherweight, is lightweight, but
stupid
a
bitch.
Guy who, you stupid cocksucker! Look at you with your stupid face. I think out of that division, with the guys coming out of there, I think the top pound, and I think it's Arman Sarukian, but like the top pound for pound guy is going to come out of the lightweight division within the next 3 years, whether it's Gamrot or Sarukian, or I think that division is just so fucking stacked top to bottom that I think he's going to have a chance to, if he can clean that division out, he could be top, like straight up, like stratospheric level.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, another fight that is not official, but they mentioned that they're working towards now. And I would probably have to double check this one to see who broke this news or whatever. But they're saying that they're close to finalizing a Dustin Poirier versus Beneil Dariush fight.
Right.
And we don't have to get into that fight right now, because I don't even think there's a tentative date, and it's not officially scheduled, so why do a breakdown? But if that turns out to be true, then I'm really, really excited about the trend that, or the way that things are trending in the lightweight division for how the matchups are going. Because for a while it looked like it could have been Dustin versus Chandler, or a lot of fans were saying, "Oh, let's recycle Justin versus Gaethje again," and it's like
Justin versus Gaethje would have been a good one.
I mean, Dustin versus Justin. Yeah, Justin versus Gaethje. I think that this is good because, for one, they're not going to be screwing Beneil Dariush over. I mean, some people probably believe he's already being screwed over because they think he should be there instead of Islam. But
he'll get more money. He'll get more money than he might. Not as much as he would in a title fight, but he's not getting totally screwed because he'll be able to like pull a bag out with Dustin Poirier.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And coming out of this Fiziev fight, more and more people are starting to get on board a little bit, or at least from what I've been seeing online and social media. Like, people are being a little bit more receptive to the idea of Justin Gaethje fighting Fiziev, maybe because they're starting to finally realize, like, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't just keep sending Justin Gaethje to war. It's okay, no matter how much we love him. Maybe we should get like, and I wouldn't even fucking call it a tune-up fight. I would be picking Fiziev in that fight, but
I would too.
But to the more casual fan who is just looking at this lightweight division like it's just Justin, Dustin, and Michael Chandler, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who would be perfectly content to see those guys fight each other. They're probably looking at, like, yeah, let's give him an easy fight. Like, let's have him fight this Fiziev guy, not knowing Fiziev's a fucking killer. And that's a great fight. And I'm not even saying that Fiziev would smoke him, but I just think that, like, it's a great match. I hope that's the fight that happens, and then that would potentially leave Michael Chandler for Gamrot, maybe. As long as because all three of those guys just back to back got a shot at the title and then got finished. So it would make sense that they'd have to fight back a little bit and say, okay, well, we'll beat a guy in the 6 through 10 range, and then you'll stay in that top 5. So if that's what they're doing right now, then I'm so happy, man. I'm so stoked.
If Charles can beat Islam, so then he beat Gaethje, Islam, Chandler, and Tony, right? And then if he's able to beat Fiziev, Gamrot, and Sarukian, like, dang, the guy has like fucking like a video game like level fucking like fight map, like, where it's just like insane, like, and then these killers are just like every day getting better, like gaining on him. Like, that's pretty wild. If he could beat Islam, and then 2 of the 3, it would probably be Gamrot and Sarukian would be the 2 guys that would be closer than Fiziev is, and then Dariush is right there too. So
yeah, it represents so much, like, because it would represent Oliveira. Like, if he manages to go on that run and beats like 2 or 3 more of those guys who are like on the horizon, it would represent him cleaning out like a whole nother generation of lightweights, like the next generation of lightweights.
Yeah.
And it would also represent him like starting to fight like an entirely different style of crop of fighters too, because like with Poirier and Gaethje and Chandler, I mean, all 3 of those dudes are pretty much wrestle boxers. Like, they're,
right.
So
that was the old guard. That's the future now, man. Like, that's fucking like that. They were the exciting guys. Like, Dustin Poirier was an exciting guy.
Yeah.
Where he was a wrestle boxer, but at a fucking super high level of boxing, which we hadn't seen. Now, like, you have like guys that do fucking wild ninja shit, like at a crazy ass fucking, like, just on hyper mode. These guys are on fucking hyper mode now.
Yeah, and I mean, not even to discount Beneil Dariush too, but like the grappling that he presents, the grappling that Gamrot, Saryukian are going to bring to the table. I mean, Fiziev is going to be a little bit of a throwback guy, you know, a really hardcore Muay Thai fighter. So it's not going to be completely like, oh, there went all the strikers. Now you're going to have this murderer's row of grapplers. And I mean, that could also mean the same thing for, and I mean, Islam Makhachev is the first chapter in that too, because he is the epitome of wrestling in that division right now too. So
in the sport maybe.
Yeah, good point. Somewhere right now Curtis Blaydes is punching a hole through his hat hearing you say that. Like, in the sport. Okay, all right, in the sport.
Come on, tell me I'm wrong, dude. Because Curtis Blaydes is a good wrestler. you could put him in a college style amateur wrestling tournament and he might succeed. Islam Makhachev wrestles for specifically to wrestle in a cage.
Yeah.
So for the sport that they're in, he's the best suited for it.
Very true. I'm fucking.
So fuck you for trying to do
that. Yeah, if Islam Makhachev was Curtis Blaydes' size, like complete style for style, he would fold Curtis Blaydes like the Moldovan bear.
Like the Moldovan bear,
Yeah. So yeah, very exciting stuff. I think there might have been a couple other current events, shit happening in the world of MMA that we could have talked about.
Connor's back training like 100%, right? They said he's ready to go.
Kavanaugh said
just make the fight now.
Yeah, Kavanaugh said he hasn't lost a step. He's back to 100%, which is, I mean, Kavanaugh's going to say that no matter what, but I don't not believe him. So I mean, Connor being back is good for business too. It's good for our views.
It's good for dude. That's like a raising boat. What is it, like a rising tide raises all ships? I guess, right?
Exactly. Cool. Well, it's getting close to midnight, and we started at like 9:30. Man, we went long tonight. I'm not even sure how long this thing's going to be. I haven't been paying attention to the time elapse, but good episode. Yeah. Thank you again, as always, for joining me. We'll enjoy the fights this weekend, and we will be back to talk about them next week as usual. Like, comment, subscribe, make love in the comments, get nasty. Let us know what you want to talk about. If you want to be a guest on the show.
Again, Curtis Blaydes has a link in his bio to benefit the underprivileged and handicapped within the sport. So
yes,
donate.
All right, bye. Bitch, you don't know what turmeric tastes like.